What up, folks? Holy shit, my green screen is still up. I didn't even actually get rid of it. You know what? Screw it. I'm going to keep the green screen up. I don't know if Stargirl is here or God. Well, God, clip this one because I am amazing at totally screwing up this stream. I am so good at screwing up the stream, but it's good to see you. I know we're a little early, but we have some time differences, so we had to come on a little early. And you'll notice probably the biggest thing that's different is Maddie's not here. So not only am I manning the stream, I'm holding a conversation, I am looking at chat, and I am so excited for the conversation we're about to have. With that being said, you all know the drill that have been here, but for people that have not been here before, I want to go through a little bit of what midlife crisis is. And midlife crisis, I like to talk about just Maddie and I. Maddie, that is not here, lifelong friends for over 30 years. We met at the fourth grade bus stop. One of the craziest humans I ever met. We think completely differently, but we are yin and yang. We complement each other. And we came back together fittingly during our midlife crisis. And from the midlife crisis, we started playing video games, decided, hey, you know what? Let's just stream video games because we were bitching and moaning about, oh, if Twitch was a thing when we were little playing Mario Kart 64, we'd be millionaires. And then we decided, you know what? Whatever, let's just do it now. We're playing Diablo 3 on our Switch. We started streaming the Elder Scrolls Online, Diablo 3. And then I found NFTs about last August, randomly won a Cool Cat creative competition, learned that thing was close to 20 grand. I went down the rabbit hole, and about November, people started coming to our channel to talk about NFTs, and we said, you know what? We're going to switch it over to NFTs. And from there, we got 5 people that liked what we were doing, and we have one simple mission, and that is to break down the lost art of genuine human connection. We really do think as we get more connected, and especially in the metaverse, and we got the all VR sets, what we're about to do is going to become important. Just having conversations, being able to hold a conversation is going to become a very valued skill set. So we're excited to share that with you, help you learn, help you grow. And thank you for being along for the ride. And without further ado, Casey, how are you doing, man?
Yeah, very good, thank you. Recovering from COVID, so excuse any coughing or hoarse voice that comes across. But feeling much better now.
So before and that's more people that have been here for a while, we love introductions on this show. And he gave me all these cool superlatives, but he forgot to mention the fact that he's recovering from COVID, because that immediately makes you a rock star, bro. Because I just got over COVID and I could barely talk, but you're sitting here late at night coming over COVID, talking to my crazy ginger ass. So thank you very much for taking the time, man. I appreciate it. Couple facts about Casey, or 9,004 Mutant 8 Yacht Club. He's a massive Chelsea fan. So for any of you soccer Chelsea fans out there, he's a season ticket holder. He goes to pretty much every game. He thinks he has the original Bored Ape on his leg because he's got a gorilla tattoo on his leg from like over a decade ago. That's an interesting, I can't wait to figure out why a gorilla. And then he freaking loves dogs, so much to the fact this dude has 5 dogs. I thought I had a lot with 3. He's trumped me by 2 extra dogs. Dude, thank you so much for being here, Casey. We're excited, and we're just going to go straight into it. Same question we always ask. How did you get to the seat you're sitting in today? Feel free to give us Star Wars Episode 1, 2, 3. You can start as a baby. You can start in elementary school. Or you can just start a couple years ago. Up to you, man. Let us hear it.
Okay, so it's I mean it's a broad question, but I'll
Very broad,
go back.
intentionally.
Yeah, I like it. I'll go back as far as I remember. Um, so I'm the eldest of three. I've got a younger brother and a younger sister. And I was born and raised in North London. I've been here my whole life. Um, my parents are still together. Lived with them until I was 25, and then moved out a couple of years ago during COVID.
I got you beat,
Um,
man. I lived at home till like 28, I think. So I know that game.
yeah,
I know that game.
it got a bit much during COVID. I think it was the right time to go.
Oh
It just
yeah, I
kind
can
of worked out
imagine.
well.
I can imagine.
Um, so taking you back again, I was at a school in London, which was quite a competitive all boys school, where I played a lot of sport, learned a lot of things,
Mm-hmm.
and really enjoyed my time. It's something I look back on really positive. I'd like to send my kids to the same school,
Yeah.
hopefully one day. And I went on from there to leave there and go to university. And the university system in the UK is very different to what you have in the States. It's much more specialized. The contact time is ridiculous. It's like 5 or 6 hours a week. In your first year, you need 40% to pass, and
Mm-hmm.
it's just a pass or fail. If you get 90% or you get 41%, it means the same. So I used that to my advantage. I had a very fun first year. And then I decided that I passed the exams at the end of the year quite comfortably.
Uh-huh.
Everything kind of from there was a step back to where I'd been at school. So I decided at that point to drop out after my first year. And I started my first business at that point, which kind of developed through a few interesting stages. Um, it started out as an idea to give the opportunity for students to work as much or little as they wanted, and to give them the opportunity to make money, but also being risk free. So we were importing products wholesale that students would use, like portable chargers, which were like everyone had them at the time,
Right.
coffee flasks, that kind of thing. Selling them to students in bulk with the idea that they would then sell them on, and any they didn't sell on, they could return to us and we'd buy back off them for what they paid. So it gave the students a chance to sell things and make a bit of money selling to their friends, and
Nice.
also we were making money along the way.
Right. Right.
Um, Kind of developed from there. I was on holiday in Christmas. I can't remember when this was. It was, I don't know, maybe 2014. And I was in Mexico. I bumped into some people from the States, made friends with them, and they have fidget spinners. It was kind of three. Do you remember those?
Mm-hmm.
It was kind of 3 months before they came to the UK. So I started playing with it, and I was like, "This is actually really fun."
Yeah.
And the kind of the first time you pick it up, and they're fun to flick around.
Right.
So I started importing those and branding them, and the students were selling those kind of before that went mainstream. That market got saturated really quickly, like
Oh, I'm
more than
sure.
the FPs in that we've got going on at the moment.
In NFTs, PFPs and
Yeah,
NFTs. That's crazy that
yeah.
the fidget spinners beat that.
Oh, I mean, like when we started, there was like one or two factories, and you had the choice of four colors.
Right.
Within the space of about 3 months, like anything you could imagine spinning span, and like it was every factory in China was now making fidget spinners. It was just crazy.
Right, right, right. But
Um,
dude, I mean, I'm surprised you didn't drop that tidbit on me as an intro, like brought the fidget spinner to UK before it was a thing. That's a pretty impressive.
yeah, yeah, that was it. Was I mean, we shifted. I had a different business partner at the time, but we shifted tens of thousands of them. I mean, the price came way down, and we ended up getting stuck with a bunch as well.
Right. Oh, I'm
Then,
sure.
yeah, with the business kind of developed from that. It got to the end of the university year. all the students went home, and we realized we had a very cyclical business. So we kind of, in the summer, focused on had a shitload of stock of fidget spinners. So we started branding them for companies and using them as kind of like merchandise.
Yeah.
And then kind of went from there, got into the merchandising business for about a year. It worked with a few interesting companies in the UK, giving them some interesting bits of merch. And at that point, through a family acquaintance and friend, um, I was offered a position at a medical devices company that I um, was a very exciting prospect at the time.
Yeah.
And that was kind of 2015 or 2016.
And so you're
I
still in college at this point?
no, so I dropped out of college at the end of my first year.
Okay.
I was
To
running
pursue fidget spinners and things.
exactly, yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. I was running that business for about 18 months, and then that's when I joined the company I was with.
Awesome.
Um, they manufactured medical devices in the UK and some in Asia, and they sold them in the UK direct to the NHS and the UK private healthcare groups in
Mm-hmm.
60 countries around the world. So I traveled around the world with them a little bit. They've got a business that they own directly in South Africa as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I spent quite a lot of time in Johannesburg, which was great.
Nice.
Um,
I heard it's
and
a
then
cool
COVID,
place.
it is. Got to be careful though. Very like they will kill you without thinking twice.
What?
Oh, like if you walked into the wrong area there and you're wearing a nice watch, or you've got a wedding ring on, someone who was a member of staff there went out there wearing a Rolex, got held at gunpoint, the Rolex taken. They were like, "Get your wedding ring off," and he was struggling to get it off his finger, and a guy fired a gun over his head. And he eventually kind of pulled it off, gave him the wedding ring, and shot off. It was a
Oh
lucky
my
escape for him.
God, man. So, I mean, this is why I love what I do. We're already, I mean, we're not even 20 minutes in, and we're talking about getting capped in Johannesburg. Never thought the conversation was going to go there.
Yeah, no, it's they've got a big gang culture there. There's a lot of
Gotcha.
poverty still.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
They've got the highest population rate of HIV. I think something crazy like 30% of the population has it. Um,
Really? Wow.
yeah, it's a massive, massive problem there.
That's
Um,
crazy.
and you go and we were in the medical devices business, so I part of my job was going into the operating room and watching procedures take place,
Right.
and you'd go into private state-of-the-art hospitals, and you could be anywhere in the world, and you'd then go into the public hospitals, and it was like going back in time. Um,
Yeah, yeah,
Crazy.
yeah, yeah. And that's unfortunate. I mean, dude, there's so many, isn't it crazy? There's so many bigger problems in this world, and we're sitting here selling JPEGs and complaining about losing money.
Yeah, yeah, it's
Puts things in
it's very
perspective.
eye-opening.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And then COVID came along, and
Mm-hmm.
being a medical devices company, we were very well positioned, kind of, to procure PPE from our regular suppliers.
Mm-hmm.
So for about 16 weeks, I was working pretty much 14 to 16-hour days, no weekends, helping procure PPE from Asia, and then selling it. We brokered 7 deals with the UK government, and we did quite a lot of deals internationally as well. So it was just working across every time zone. It was very, very frantic period,
Right.
um, and it was just kind of insane. The company did the first 10 weeks of COVID, they did 15 years worth of revenue. Um, and as a knock-on effect, I did very well out of that, or well out of that, and decided kind of I wanted to do what my passion was, and that wasn't um, sitting all day kind of in an office behind a desk, which is where my role was at that point.
Right.
So I decided I was gonna leave that in December 20, and without kind of really knowing what I was gonna do. And then over that Christmas period, I kind of stumbled into crypto, and that's where this all kind of began. So I would say I went full-time crypto in January 21. Um, I didn't
January
start taking it
21.
seriously.
So
Yeah,
so so
so
hold on. I'm gonna interrupt you rudely. So you just gave us an insane story, wealth of information, so much that I can't avoid asking questions before we get to your crypto story. So
sure.
a couple things that come to mind. One, you said something very interesting to me, and that was you fondly look back at your private school that you went to. I'd love to learn more about that. Like, what are those fond memories? Was it the friendship? Was there something that you learned? Like, love to hear and dive deeper into that because most people that tell me they went to private school, they say they freaking hated it. So that's just interesting to me. What are your thoughts there?
Um, was an ultra competitive, like top 10 in the country every single year, kind of focused purely academically, strenuous to get in. Um, and that atmosphere was maintained from when you were 11 and joined to when you left at 18. So it definitely wasn't for everyone.
Right, right.
Um, I made and I mean that makes it sound like it was robots there. It wasn't. It was a normal school, but they taught you how to pass exams, and there was a very much focus on that, and the
Uh-huh.
teaching level was good. So you came in and you had a decent level of intelligence, and they worked you hard, and they kind of out as a school generally a very good test scores as a result of that. Um, I've got a group now of 11 close friends. Eight of them went to school with me.
Uh-huh.
We were playing football, rugby, hockey, like throughout the year. Every year was kind of every weekend, and then during the week as well. It was very non-stop. Kind of at the time, you look back, and it's all great memories. We
Right,
went on loads of trips.
right.
We had a mandatory. We had to do either it was called CCF,
Mm-hmm.
which I can't remember what it stands for, but you had to be like Army, Navy, or Air Force and kind of pretend to be them 1 day a week. And we went on trips with that where we'd go camping and do all that kind of thing.
That's
There was a
amazing.
lot of extra outside of just the classroom stuff going on.
Right, right,
Um, it at the same time, although it was a very pressurized and pushy atmosphere,
right,
um, I mean, there were teachers that were assholes, but I feel like that's the case wherever school you
right.
go to. There were also teachers that actually cared about you and kind of they
Mm,
really wanted to improve your education and help you learn.
right.
And it was just kind of a good environment to be in to kind of when I went to university, it was a step back. Um,
That's
it
crazy to think it was a step back to university because it was supposed to be a
yeah,
step up, right?
yeah. I mean, the university system in the UK is absolutely flawed.
Yeah, yeah.
It's
Can you talk to me about that, like of how it was a step back and the flaws that you saw? Because I don't think many people would probably be able to go into the university system with that perspective.
um the like purely from an educational standpoint, what
Right,
I did in my second last year and high school in the UK is slightly different because I feel like your senior year in the States is quite relaxed, whereas the senior year in the UK, you have exams at the end of the year and you sit those exams as the last thing you do,
right,
and then you find out in the summer whether your grades are good enough to go to the college you want to go to.
right.
Um,
Gotcha.
so it's a very kind of like the last 2 years are the pressure years. Sorry.
No, it's okay.
Um, I lost my train of thought there as I was coughing.
So we were talking about like you said you took a step back in university.
Oh yeah. So for
So
my
like what's that perspective because you had such a great high school experience?
just the purely from the course we were doing in my second last year at school, it was the same content I was doing in my first year at university, and
Wow.
kind of flicked through the whole. I went to the first lecture and like they went through all the stuff they were doing for the year, and I was like, I already know all this. I need to get 40%. I literally don't need to go. and they don't care. If you don't turn up, like there's no one saying, "Where are you? Where's this?" I was
Right.
18, kind of there, going out 2 or 3 nights a week, having a lot of fun, um, and not worrying that I was missing out on anything academically because I went to kind of a few in the first few weeks, and it was my learning style is not sitting in a room full of people where there's one person at the front talking. I really struggle with that, especially when the person isn't captivating. And a lot of I mean, I was at a reasonably good university
Right.
in the UK,
Mm-hmm.
um, and it it just felt like kind of they were there to tell you what they were going to tell you and then do whatever research they wanted to do. It very much felt like a business thing. They're getting as many kids in as they can. They're charging you ridiculous tuition fees, nowhere near as ridiculous as you guys have to pay in the States. But
Bro, it's out of control. I mean, fortunately, one of the good things about California, because everything else is overpriced, I actually can go, you can go to a 4 year like local university for like a couple $1,000.
yeah, so I think here you're coming out probably £50,000, so maybe like $70,000 in debt at the end of the 3 years, which is what our courses are.
Oh yeah,
Um,
the state you're going to a good school, you're well over 100 grand in debt at this point.
yeah. Um, and but I mean the contact hours in the UK, even if you go to everything, are like 5 or 6 hours a week. It's such a scam, I think.
Yeah,
So the you need to go to university to get a piece of paper to get you a job for certain jobs. What you really need to go to university, if you're going to be a doctor, of course, if you're
be a
going to be an
lawyer,
engineer or yeah, a lawyer or something like that, something vocational where you need to study your profession, it
right?
makes a lot of sense.
Absolutely.
Learned so much more about business, which is I was studying economics, but kind of learned so much more about business from starting my own business and than being at university. And even kind of
Right.
from school, although I really enjoyed school, it's kind of the practical side. There were definitely flaws in it.
Yeah, yeah.
At my school, they were very much focused on getting your grades up and teaching you how to pass the exams, and
Hmm.
not necessarily how to be ready for life.
Right.
And I think that's missing from the school curriculum, but that's another kind of whole
Yeah,
nother
man,
debate.
I'm with you. I always thought, and maybe NFT money will give me enough money, but my one of my so I am a creative dude. I went to design school and have been in advertising marketing my whole life, and I always have a bajillion ideas, right? And one of my many billion-dollar ideas was I was just gonna create the Mikey G School of Life, and you just skipped college and you get an 18 month degree, and we talk about what marriage really is like, how to mortgage a house, what you should do with retirement, basic financing, like all the things that you actually need to know about that no one tells you about because I think they just like to see you suffer. I mean, that's way more practical to me than reading some BS book or listening to a liberal arts professor.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's literally exactly how I feel, and kind of I experienced that myself. I kind of dropped out of university thinking I know all of this.
Yeah.
And then I got into the real world and I had to set up a business and open a company bank account and do all the accounts and all that kind of thing. And it was like, you guys, taxes, all that sort of stuff. They don't teach you about that.
No, dude.
Um,
No,
and
none of it.
it's, it's kind of the important thing. You wonder why people come out, they're in massive debt and people are racking up credit card debt or can never afford to get kind of
Yeah.
out of the debt they've got themselves in when they're at college because they're never taught how to.
Yeah. I mean,
It's
I have a master's degree. I call myself fairly educated, and I did it, man. I went through the same thing. Massive. I mean, because you're not only that, you're getting, I'm in my instance, the only place you can find a job is usually at a big city. So I'm looking at like New York, DC, Philly, like all of these different places that are insanely expensive to live. You're riddled in debt, and then you're starting out with like $30,000 a year job, And it's like, well, you got to live. So the credit card is the only option there in the beginning, to be honest. You just, I took the mentality, hopefully I make enough in the future, I'll figure it out. And I did, fortunately, but a lot of people don't. And so it's such a great point, man. And so you've said so many interesting things. I'm so excited, already really excited about this conversation. So a couple of things that come to mind. One, obviously, this conversation about the education system kind of forced that entrepreneur bug. You're like, I want to do something different. Let's start a business. I'm actually really interested, still back to the high school, about that ultra competitive. Are there any things, because you mentioned ultra competitive, just like having that one-to-one mentorship and attention, anything from those years that or you think helped develop your mindset to get to the point where you quickly realized university wasn't it and you wanted to start a business? Like during those formative years, is there anything that sticks out to your mind?
Um, there's, I mean, there was a point where I realized, and when I say I went to nothing, I went occasionally to things. There was a point when I realized like I was done when I was at university, and we were in a seminar, which is like a smaller a breakdown group,
Mm-hmm.
and they were going around the room and they were asking what your ambition was to your salary when you're at the peak of your career.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I answered and said £1 million, and the lecturer just laughed. It's a different mentality in the UK than in the States. Like wealth here is kind of frowned upon. If you're successful, people look at you like, who have you fucked over to get that? Whereas I feel like in the States, it's more like, wow, that's really impressive. You're a hard worker or you've done this.
Right.
And it was kind of that instant mentality, like, you can't do that. You're like, it was like laughing in my face, like, you're never going to be able to do that. And it was kind of like, well, and I'm
Interesting.
in the wrong place because kind of that's that yeah, that was kind of what solidified it in my point. And my parents at the time were extremely unhappy. I kind of came from a traditional background where I spent money on my education. I'd gone to a very good school. I'd got good A-level results, which is what you need to go to university.
Right.
And then I was at the point where it was like the last point of education, and I was like, no, I'm not doing this. So that caused a reasonable amount of conflict at the time, but they've kind of swung around now. My brother went to university and literally just got missed for 3 years, and absolutely loved it. But a kind of a year of that was enough for me, and it was no educational value.
Yeah.
I think it's just the popular thing to do now. I
Right.
think kind of
Right. It.
it's go to university, do this, do that, you'll get a good job. But you like kids are struggling to come out of university with a job now. You've got to get a master's to actually stand out. Um,
I know it's
and
insane. It's insane to me that like that is and yeah, pretty much we're already at the point. Like you got to get that MBA, man, or if you don't have the MBA, but it's like now you're now adding on more debt and you haven't even experienced life yet, right? Like that's what always terrified me about people that wanted to be a doctor. It's like you're going to be in school till you're in your late 20s, early 30s maybe, and you have yet to work and you're going to bank hoping that you like that? Like that's just a bizarre concept to me.
yeah, I mean, I see it when you see Facebook friends pop up from that you're at school with, and it's like, I'm now a doctor, and it's like, God, what have you been doing for all this time? It's kind of so much has gone on, and I can't imagine. I say I really enjoyed my time at school. I don't think I really enjoyed the educational system like
Right.
much. So I personally couldn't. I mean, like I've got my sister's boyfriend is studying to be an accountant at the moment.
Right.
He's doing his job and then he's studying in the evenings and he's got exams and all that kind of stuff.
Right. Right.
And that's just not a profession that I'd want to be in personally. I'm more expressive, more creative. I like kind of building and thinking and building those kind of things out. Um, Not being confined by told you can do this, you can't do this kind of computer says no attitude.
Yeah, and you're problem solving, right? Like it's scary at first if you don't kind of know who you are or what you want, but I'm pretty convinced if you're comfortable in your skin, kind of know who you are and what you're about, a lot of people enjoy that, right? Like the problem solving is, to me, what keeps life interesting. What are your thoughts there?
Yeah, for sure. And I think it's how you go about it as well. I think,
Ooh, that's interesting.
yeah, it's kind of if you're very direct with it and kind of upfront and aggressive about it, it doesn't really work. If you're
Mm,
kind of you've got to know who you're working with, what type of people you're working with. I think people skills is a big thing.
huge,
And kind of understanding the emotions of what else is going on in the room,
right?
and how other people are feeling about things, and kind of without it sounding manipulative, how to frame things best to get the outcome you want based on kind of how they're feeling and what they're picturing. And that's something I think I'm quite a logical thinker.
Hmm.
Well, I am quite a logical thinker, so things just kind of work in logical steps in my head. So that kind of falls in with relationships and people building as well. I think it helps to kind of analyze, see what other people are feeling, see how they're uh, expressing themselves, and aligning yourselves with that makes things work in kind of in those situations much better.
Yeah, and I love how, and it's cool. We bring this up a lot. There's a lot of universal principles as we go through these conversations from different people, and one being personal skills, right? Is such a network, and how to literally how I started the show off, how important we think it is, hence why we're here today, right? But I've never heard someone describe it in that angle of like using your logic to really understand the emotions and read the room. Like, obviously, I've heard that, but somebody bringing it up as something that like they really concentrate on. I mean, that's how to how to win friends and influence people. Like one of the greatest books of all time talks exactly about that, right? And it's so important to be successful.
Yeah, I think there's such a huge when other people want you to succeed, it makes a huge difference. If people are looking at you going, that guy, uh, I'm gonna say, well, can we swear? I won't now. I've said that.
Yeah,
That
you
guy,
can say that guy's a complete fuck stick if you want to.
yeah, that guy's a tosser. People are not going to be inclined to help you. They don't want to support what you're doing. Whereas if they're behind you, they're kind of like your vision, what you're doing, and you can converse with them in a way where everyone feels like they're part of it and they're doing together. It makes things work because that's especially when you're doing a community-based project,
Oh yeah. Oh
where
yeah.
you need that kind of grounding and that basis. I think it's a big part of um, kind of what makes people that are leading these teams successful or not. Because whether you can gauge the environment of kind of what's going on, and I think to jump into NFTs quickly, kind of with the Azuki situation,
Oh yeah,
um,
man.
founder there, I think, completely misread the situation.
He did.
And if I was him, you come out, you put your hands up, you say, "This is what happened," and you know what? If he really had honest intentions before it was just happened just after the beans drop. He should have said, "These are the projects I worked on. These people have got additional whitelist spots for beans. The collection's double the size. Half are going to Azuki, half are going to these other projects.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, but this is where we're at now."
Yeah.
And
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I mean, on a broad scale, there's obviously kind of you can go into the detail of it, but it's just an example of a situation where people read the room wrong, and it's become such a divisive issue. Whereas had they have handled that better,
Mm-hmm.
could have not been swept under the rug, but people would have moved on much quicker if he was just genuine and honest about it.
Yep.
I think that's such a massive thing as well. Is kind of people can tell when you're being genuine.
Yep.
Um, so I think actually believing in what you're saying, being honest,
Right.
makes it much. It comes across naturally much better. I mean, obviously there are people out there that can sell kind of anything, and not necessarily need to believe in what they're talking about. But when it does come out naturally,
Mm-hmm.
and you have a passion for it, I think it helps build up. There's lots of components, I think, that
Right.
make like people successful, and that's in like a business sense and in a sense of relationships.
Right.
I think they're interlinked. I mean, you get people that are incredibly smart and can be very successful, but that might, in a more kind of localized sense, if or not local, but in a more individual business, someone that has the interpersonal skills and you can kind of create a team. That's what I like, is kind of having a team of people around,
Yeah.
that you can rely on, you can trust, and you can, like, if I'm not doing something, I know there'll be someone else stepping up and taking that kind of responsibility.
Dude, you are just nailing this left and right, man. Like I love the Zuki reference, and from my understanding, they actually weren't like straight up rugs. They were just projects that failed, right? And he worded it wrong, and he wasn't reading the room, and then he didn't deal with it appropriately, and that's so true, right? The other thing that it brings up, and I just like to go on this tangent, is interesting to me is then people quickly forget, right? Because now they're locked up in something that's worth 30, 40 ETH. And it's frustrating to me when people are just kind of, but because this person is leading a project, right? A big, massive project that is now worth hundreds of millions of dollars. And I just don't feel like having that much influence with money should kind of make it easier to kind of clean your hands of just a lot of shitty things said, right? What are your thoughts around that?
That's a microcosm of the world, right?
Right.
Like in politics, if you're in the States, if you're a Republican,
Mm-hmm.
this is a broad kind of thing, or you're a Democrat, someone on your side does something wrong, you'll defend the indefensible, and someone on the other side does the same thing, and you'll call them out for being the worst person in the world.
Right. Right.
And I mean, that's the same. That's the same in the UK with the politics here. It's just people are people are hypocritical.
Oh yeah.
I'll do that for me, and it's not such a big deal. You do the exact same thing, and it's like, oh my God, it's the end of the world. And
Yeah.
I'm not excusing what he did at all, because
Yeah.
I think he handled it badly, and they weren't like full on rugs.
Right.
But I think there was a few sketchy bits of information, and I think he gave up on the
Absolutely.
project pretty quick.
Yeah.
After Mint, I think there was actually one that kind of was a rug.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so I mean, yes, it's just a microcosm of the world. I
Yeah.
think
Yeah.
we're in a very combative. If you've got an opposing view to someone right now, whatever it's on, gets argumentative and hostile. It can get argumentative and hostile so quickly. People don't tolerate other people's views anymore.
Yeah.
I think that has got kind of worse with the internet and social media.
Yep.
I think it's almost at the worst it's ever been, where
100%.
it, kind of when you're looking at politics, you're either a racist or a snowflake or whatever the insult is now.
Right. Right. Right.
Um,
There's no in between, right?
yeah, and it's makes it impossible to get things done because
Right.
everyone hates each other. There's
Right.
so much kind of, and going back to what I said before, when you hate someone, you don't want them to succeed. You want to tear down everything they've done.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, kind of it, it's. I mean, this makes it sound like democracy is bad, but there's a popularity contest every 4 years to
Right.
decide who's going to be the most powerful person in the world.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
then they undo what the previous person has done,
Mm-hmm.
and kind of make their own mess,
Yep.
and then they're gone, and someone else does it, and it's just rinse and repeat.
Right.
It's kind of that's what's scary about. I'm going completely off topic about
No,
China.
no.
Is
This is fantastic.
they've got a regime where they've got a 40, 50, 60 year plan, and they don't care whether the people like it or not. They're
Exactly.
building, and like, take aside democracy and how the people feel and what it's like to be a citizen of those two countries.
Right.
If you zoom out and you say which one of these countries in 10, 20, 30 years time is going to be in a better position economically and as a power of the world, country that's having popularity contests every 4 years and undoing everything, or ones that have got a plan, building for the future.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. That's a hell of a
it's
hell. I think the building for the future usually wins out, right? And the other thing that I think you're saying too is what is really siphoning down to is there's extremes now, and another product of what we're trying to do here is like, listen, man, like prime example, right? Like my co-founder, best friend of over 30 years. I live in California. He would never move to California. I'm not a big firearms guy. Dude built a multi-million dollar firearms business. We obviously have differing opinions on things, but he's my best bud. And we can have educated conversations about the differencing of opinion, talk about it, still disagree, uh, but have a conversation, man. And it's just it's frustrating, but hey, me, you, and the solid chaps in the NFT space, we have an opportunity to do some things like that as we continue to grow and educate and help each other out in the right, genuine way.
I just think that it's so important to be tolerant. And again, going back, kind of, you can macro it up to politics, or you can bring it right down to kind of relationships
Hmm.
and building communities on this sort of level. It's people have different life experiences, people have come from different backgrounds, and people see the same thing in different ways,
Hmm.
and that's fine. I kind of get on with it. It's whatever happens on a macro and political scale happens. It will probably be undone in 4 or 8 years anyway.
Right.
So losing sleep over it. I mean, we had Brexit a few years ago, and there were families that were like torn apart and not
Oh yeah.
talking because some people wanted to stay and some people wanted to leave, and it was just no one even knew what they were talking about. Most people didn't know the arguments.
Right.
It just gets so tribal so quickly.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And I mean, you see it at football games. I go to a game and we're playing a team that we don't like, and I'm up and I'm shouting, and you don't really realize it when you're in the moment. And then a few years ago, I went to Spurs, who are one of our biggest rivals,
Right.
and I was sitting in the Spurs end as a Chelsea fan, and they went 2-0 up in the first half, and I was kind of sitting on my hands, like gloomily sitting around. And there were these people, like fully grown men, going wild, like screaming abuse at the Chelsea players, like spitting, shouting. And I was like, oh my God, like, I hope I don't look like this. Because it's just so, like, it's pathetic.
Yeah.
When you take it down to that level, like, great, I'm a huge football fan, but when it gets to that point where there's just like that level of hatred for the other team, it's just, it,
Oh
it
man, yep. And
it's,
you layer in alcohol on that bad boy, and I mean, dude, I've been to obviously American football here is massive, and I mean, I've seen full blown fist fights of like 2 50-year-old men because they're pissed off about their team not winning. It's like, come on, people,
yeah.
what world are we living in?
The football violence here is like virtually non-existent compared to how it was 20 or kind of 30 years ago.
I heard it could be
We,
brutal.
yeah, yeah. Like my dad's been going to Chelsea for kind of 50 years, and when he was first going, saw a few nasty kind of incidents. But England got to the final of the Euros last summer, which was in London, and um, I've never seen anything like that. Like the outside the ground from like 9 o'clock in the morning, and it was like a 7 o'clock kickoff. There were like 250,000 people. It was like Baghdad. There were smoke grenades going off everywhere. People
What?
were lobbing full cans of beer in the air, just like up, and they were just smashing people on the head.
Oh
And
my
people would climb up on
god.
lampposts, and someone would climb up on the lamppost, and at that point, everyone would chuck their beer at them, like however much of their can they had. And there were just projectiles flying through the head. I went with a big group of boys. Two people ended up in hospital, getting stitches because they were just hit with projectiles flying through the air. My
Holy
mum actually came to
shit.
the game and met us kind of just before we were going in. She got hit in the face like with a beer can just walking through the crowd.
Oh
I mean, it
man.
was the atmosphere that breeds kind of is so. I think England is kind of bad for it, especially at those kind of when England are playing, notoriously so. But
Right, right,
it,
right.
it just it it breeds that kind of tribalism, and when you zoom out, it's so ugly.
Oh yeah.
And kind of that's a approach where I'm quite a relaxed person. If we disagree about something, I'm more than happy to have kind of, as you said, like an educated conversation about it.
Hmm.
You can just tell when you're talking to someone that just instantly they make your mind up on you based on one view you have,
Hmm.
or one kind of one anything, and it's just I, I struggle with it kind of as a logical thinker. It's like how well, people are so hypocritical. I think that's
Hmm.
kind of the essence of it.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think the most important thing you said, and I think it's just a very uh, simple concept is the word tolerance, man. It's a powerful word if you use it right. Um, but that was an amazing sidetrack. I appreciate that. That's kind of the things we do here. Am I living up to my word from kind of our prep combo before coming live?
Yeah, we've gone down some avenues I wasn't expecting.
Well, that's the point here. We have a good time. But I promise one last question before we get to like kind of your crypto journey because I can't wait to hear that with all of the awesomeness we already talked about. Really, this kind of this entrepreneur vibe, starting the businesses in university. You come to that realization before you get into crypto, before you realize you want to start a project. Are are these experiences like what did you learn from that? What do you take away from that timing? Because you're you said you're building a business. You got thousands, tens of thousands of fidget spinners, but then you probably take this medical job because um, it's promising. I'm sure it's lucrative. The company's great, right? But you're now succumbing to the fact that like you're gonna get rid of that entrepreneurship vibe a little bit. Can you just talk to me about that experience and time in your life and like any things that you take away from going through all that?
I really enjoyed kind of moving to that medical devices company. I learned a lot. I got to experience a lot of um, good things. I was moved quite quickly to quite a senior position, and it was a privately owned, or it is a privately owned company. So I had a direct relationship with the owner. So I kind of had
Mm,
a mixture of, it was working for a business, but it wasn't like a corporate business. It
right.
was I still had the freedom to come up with my own initiatives, managing the salespeople in that kind of sense, and putting in my own kind of imprint on things. It wasn't as much as I wanted to be, and I kind of realized at the end of it, I don't want to be stuck in one location where I've got to go into an office every day from 9 to 5 for the rest of my life. Um, I kind of want the freedom to, like, for example, today, my girlfriend is off work today. She's working on Junior Bake Off, filming of that at the moment. If
That's
you get that across,
amazing.
it's so she's off today because they're not filming. So I didn't work during the day, and it's now just gone 1 a.m. And I'm working now. And kind of, if I was in my old position, I wouldn't be able to do that. So the freedom is um,
Right. It's
kind
amazing.
of yeah, it's something that I love about the space.
Right.
There's always kind of people awake in a different community from somewhere else where you can speak to, and it's 5 o'clock somewhere.
Oh, dude, it's amazing. And I actually say that we reiterate this a lot. I mean, I worked for major corporations, right, in the States and have a 20 plus year career in design and marketing and advertising. The last 8 months of my life, I've met more people from more diverse backgrounds than I have my entire career, right? And it's just an amazing thing that Web3 does and layer on the community and you're getting to know each other and you're all in it, you know, the real ones, you're in it together, you're building a real legit community. It's not a bunch of fake stuff. It's just magical, man. And with that being said, uh, let's get there, man. Like, let's talk about. So you're at the medical device company, and you find crypto. Can we talk about that? You finding crypto, um, up to kind of like the starting of the project, and then once we get to the project, I'd love to hear a little background before that. But let's talk about your crypto journey, man.
Yeah, so I kind of finished working for the medical company in December. I was away kind of over the new year and kind of looking at what I was going to do next.
Right.
Then I bought a little bit of Bitcoin and Ethereum on eToro in 2017, and I'd actually done all right. I managed to sell kind of the top just before I went to Vegas, which had more to do with me going to Vegas than having a clue what was going to happen to the price.
I love that
Um,
story, dude. Selling Bitcoin because you're going to Vegas. That's gonna be a clip from this stream. I guarantee you that.
I mean, it wasn't. I was dabbling at the time.
Right, right.
It wasn't anything significant, but kind of, it was a little bit extra for the Vegas fund, and it went in.
I love it.
Um, So I kind of was semi-aware that it existed, and kind of I don't know, it started popping up on my feed, and with the algorithms, as you start clicking on one, it comes up more and more often. And then all of a sudden, kind of, I was engrossed in this. I decided kind of I wanted to trade, and it was actually around that time there was a story of like 10 oil traders in the UK. And do you
Uh-huh.
remember there was a couple of days where oil went negative? Um,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
and there was a group of like 7 traders in Essex, and they made like 800 million. They're being sued by one of the US authorities or investigated at the moment still.
For like market
Um,
manipulation.
no, I can't, they were basically being paid to take oil, and then they had got other contracts where they'd pre-agreed a price at a higher rate, and they were just being paid to take it and then selling it straight away. And I can't
Oh,
remember, if you look up, like, if you're interested, Essex Traders oil
I'll
trade.
find it.
Yeah, it was kind of around then, and they'd made, I can't remember what it was. It was like $700 million overnight. And
Essex Boys case of traders accused of manipulating markets.
sounds about right.
Yeah,
Um,
traders of acting virtual locks up to sell oil contracts in an attempt to depress oil prices. That's crazy, man. They
yeah,
made 491 million in one day.
yeah. So I saw that and I was like, okay, shit, I need to trade.
So that I love this. This is you're like, holy shit, there's something here, even though it was highly illegal. So you're like, all right, I'm in.
Yeah, pretty, I like that. That's a big number. You've got my attention. So it kind of started looking into it, and I realized, like, you needed to trade one specific thing to kind of be aware of what's going on. So I was like, okay, there's this oil thing going on.
Uh huh.
That looks like it could be an interesting one. And then I was like, well, there's gold, there's normal stocks.
Mm-hmm.
And then I kind of came to crypto,
Okay.
and fell down that rabbit hole. I bought kind of, one of the early things I bought was Dogecoin when it was below a cent, kind of pretty much in January.
Is this
And
January
I
last year or this January?
January last year, 21.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, that's what I thought. Awesome. So you got
Um,
Dogecoin below a cent?
yeah, and
Oh.
then me buying it was like 10 cents. And it was pretty much the first one I'd bought. I bought $2,000 and it had gone to $20,000.
Oh.
Then I'd refresh my phone and it'd be $14,000. And then I'd refresh my phone and it'd be $23,000. And then I'd refresh it and it'd be 16 or 10. And
Yeah.
I just couldn't take it. Like, the fluctuation, I was like, fuck me, this is just crazy. So I cashed out of that at about 10 cents.
Yeah.
And I was delighted at the time. Um, Ended up regretting that when it would have gone on to be like $500,000
Oh
within
my
a
God.
few
What did it
months,
get up to?
like 80 cents.
Oh. Bro.
Yeah.
I
Oh
mean,
no, sorry,
listen,
not half
man.
a million dollars. It would have been like it would have been like $200,000.
Yeah, but still, I mean,
Yeah.
listen, that was the beginning of another bug, I'm assuming, once you saw it to turning 2 grand into 20.
Yeah, exactly. And it was yeah, that really got me excited. Kind of started getting a little bit into a coin portfolio and a little bit
Mm-hmm.
into day trading.
Okay.
And kind of just following. I kind of made my own Twitter. Well, actually, this was before this Twitter account. I started following loads of kind of stuff on my normal Twitter account, and then I
Right.
made a Twitter account which isn't this one, which is kind of dead now. I don't use. Kind of before I got into NFTs, but just to follow all the crypto stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Was following a lot of the influence on there, kind of listening to streams,
Right.
and just trying to learn as much as possible.
Right.
And I mean, made mistakes on the way, lost plenty of money trading, as well as having a few successful ones, or a reasonable amount of successful ones.
Right.
Um,
And this is all through last year then, right?
yeah, all through. So I mean, kind of when I got into it, it was a Bitcoin. I first bought Bitcoin kind of this time around, not counting the 2017 when I can't remember exactly what the price was, at about 18,000. And then Elon Musk bought, and it was going to 100K by the end of the year, and it was kind of you buy anything and it was going up. And
Yeah.
it was a very exciting period. Like I got a lot of my friends involved,
Right.
some of my family,
Yeah.
and they all or mostly did very well.
Uh-huh.
And then some of them are more risk tolerant than others and have taken profits, and others are now not doing so well.
Oh yeah.
Um, I mean, that's, I guess, part of the journey.
Everything's
Everyone is learning.
cyclical though, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Mm.
I think. uh, I mean, it depends. Some things won't come back.
Well, yeah, yeah. Some things are dead, and people lost lots of money. But I'm interested though because we talked a lot of kind of more about coins. Like, are you still doing the coins, or was there a moment in time where you're just like, I'm all in on NFTs, enough of this coin stuff?
So one of my favorite coin influencers, or if that's the right term, launched his own NFT collection, which was a free to mint, and I had notifications on his tweet. He came out, he said, and this was kind of board apes were out at this point. This was probably
Who was the
September.
influencer?
Kaleo, Crypto Kaleo,
Okay.
Kaleo. He does some really amazing fractals on price.
Okay.
So kind of like future of like where it's going, and he has been pretty much spot on with the market. He was a bit over bullish at the top, and he called top late. But since then, he's been pretty much spot on, and he called the mini bottom we're in at the moment pretty well. So he's someone I still pay attention to his tweets. I've still
How
got
long? How
notifications
long
on.
does he say this mini bottom lasts, or there's a big bottom coming still?
Uh, he thinks we could go to this is a few days outdated, but he thinks we could go to kind of 33. We could get stopped at about 29, but then he thinks we're coming back down to around where we are. He said, gun to his head, the bottom is in, but it's not a V-shaped recovery. We'll get to 33, we'll come back down. He
Yeah.
doesn't think we'll break the lows again. Um,
Interesting.
uh,
Interesting.
um,
I'm gonna have
he's
to check him out. I should start following him because that will help me out just knowing from a macro level as well.
Yeah, he speaks really well. He hosts Twitter Spaces kind of once or twice a week.
Nice.
He gets other people up, kind of getting different views on the market.
Hmm.
And it kind of, you feel like you know someone when you're kind of listening to them talk and you're reading
Yeah.
their tweets every day. He
Yeah.
comes across as a nice guy for what that's worth. So it's kind of, I've enjoyed listening to him and learning from. I'm not sure exactly what his background is, but I think
Right.
he has a lot of technical knowledge.
So when
And
did he
he
launch
can
this free mint? Where are we at last year?
probably around September. It was called Wonky Stonks, and you just had to pay gas to
Can you
claim
just
it.
say that again?
So
That's the most ridiculous name I've ever heard. Did you say wonky stonks?
so they are. It's kind of artworks of charts.
That's
But,
hilarious. I love it.
so they came out and, well, let's see, I just kind of pulled them up on OpenSea. When did they
How do you
come out?
spell his name again? Chat's asking.
Kaleo. I've
Okay.
not got.
I
I
actually
think it's
might have heard
crypto.
of this guy. Kaleo. And by the way, I don't know if you've been able to pay attention to chat, but you have a lot of your fans in here saying that you're just a legendary human being. So you should be good to know that you got your own supporters like Crypto Kaleo does too.
Thank you. It's always nice to hear. Um, so yeah, those came out, and I only minted one because I didn't really know what I was doing.
Mm-hmm.
And it was kind of I was paying. They were free, but I mean at the time, you gas was crazy non-stop, so I paid like a $25 gas fee maybe. Kind of went in my wallet, it revealed straight away, and I was like, oh, I've got this kind of thing, and it went to like 0.25 ETH, which at the time was like $1,000.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I've just got this for free, and it's worth $1,000. I was like,
Isn't that mind
NFTs are
blowing?
great.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and kind of at that time, a few of the NFT influence I was follow was sorry, a few of the a few of the crypto influence I was following started flipping NFTs instead of trading coins.
Yeah.
And they were like buying a Bored Ape for $100,000 and selling it for $150,000 a couple of weeks later. And they were like, this is way less stressful than trading things. Everything was just going up there as well. And it
Right.
was outpacing the growth you were getting in the coins. You were gaining ETH and dollars.
Oh yeah.
Um, so I kind of, that took me down the rabbit hole, and I kind of went in head first and just was right around when the Bored Ape Roadmap 2.0 came out, and I don't know if you know, kind of it's like cartoony image, kind of with the swamp in the middle,
Mm-hmm.
and they had on there some reference to ApeCoin and a few other things, and I was like, okay, I really like this. I think ApeCoin is gonna do it. So I bought 3 mutants when the floor of mutants was 3.5.
Oh my gosh. Oh
Yeah, so that
my
that was
god.
just
Wait,
kind
wait.
of
Oh no. You spent a little over 10 ETH and you got 3 mutants.
yeah.
Bravo, my friend. Bravo.
What the one I've got, I paid 6.2 for this one. But I think I spent 15 ETH and got 3 mutants.
Wow.
So I mean, in hindsight, it was a great move.
Right.
At the time, it felt like quite a substantial investment.
Oh, sure.
Um,
Of course.
and then, I mean, within it kind of sat around there for a couple of weeks, and then it started going up, and then they were 10, and everyone was like, "Casey, you're insane. Sell these. Like, you've got photos of monkeys." I was like, "No, they're going to be one of the biggest brands in the next decade." This is like I really believed in what they were doing. Right, I
Right.
do believe in what they're doing.
Yeah.
And kind of in my head, I always bought them. Um, Looking at the roadmap, thinking about ApeCoin, and I didn't kind of you didn't know what was going to happen with it at the time. But I thought you'd be paid a certain amount of ApeCoin kind of every day or every week for holding your apes, kind of in a
Right.
staking way. And I was in my head thinking, kind of when it all started kicking off, like these are the most popular ones. You're
Right.
gonna earn more than an average annual salary by holding one of these, and you just got to hold one of these through the ApeCoin. That was kind of my mentality when I bought it, and kind of why I got into it. And every time people were telling me to sell, I was like, no, like this is a money printer now.
Yeah.
And then kind of um, ApeCoin happened, and I kind of remember on the morning that it happened that I claimed my ApeCoin, and the price was crazy on the first day. Like it came out, and if you were early, it was like $30, and then it was like $25, and then it was like 20. And I had 6,000 coins. So
Yeah.
when it was $20, I had $120,000 worth of ApeCoin.
Right.
And I was like refreshing it like on my phone like crazy. And I was like, I'm right. Blah, blah, blah. That went on. Then the other deeds launched, and it kind of
Please tell
peaked
me
the
you sold some
hysteria.
of your ape coin.
Sold 20% of it at about $20.
What is it at
On the
now? Like
claim day.
$5?
It is right now like 7 or 8.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But I mean, it got to about $30 prior to the other deeds launching.
Yeah.
And the other deeds, I stayed up, claimed my other deeds, was really excited, went to bed, woke up. My ape coin, which was my remaining ape coin, was worth like $130,000 when I went to bed. I woke up, it was like 70.
Yeah. Yeah.
The mutant floor price had fallen in half, and
Uh,
I had four unrevealed because I bought one as well. Other deeds. I
yeah.
was like trying to work out like where am I with the difference. I was like, shit, I'm net down.
Yeah.
But then I pulled a coda, so it kind of like a few days afterwards, I was in pretty much a neutral position to where I was beforehand, but with more assets.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, this is actually a bit better because um, I can sell some if I wanted to now
Right.
without giving away kind of the main assets of the
Yeah, because you got
mutants.
the coda. That dude, that's amazing. And so again, incredible story, and we're not even to the project yet. We're gonna get there soon because I know it's late for you, and I got about 45 minutes, which is plenty of time to talk. We still got plenty of time to talk. One thing that I would like to until before we kind of transition into how you met your partner and you started your project is you've been through a lot, through the coins, through Diamond handing the three mutants, getting three mutants at an amazing price, which seemed like a lot at the time. Any advice you would share to our community or an NFT trader, or things that come to mind over this past year's experience of, one of my mantras. So I don't know if I told you, but I got kind of my claim to fame by being an original hate beast mod, and
Yeah,
everyone thought that was the next Bored Ape, right? These things are going to go to 50 ETH and everyone's going to be a bajillionaire. And I predicted like 8 to 10 ETH was like, I feel like
that was
that's
pre-reveal, right?
pre reveal. And I was like, 8 to 10 ETH, I think that's going to be around good. And, me being a mod, everyone's like, you can't sell, blah, blah, blah. Guess what I did? I made 40 ETH, bro. And I,
Nice.
and I have told people time and time again, you have to realize gains. So what are your thoughts over your last year and ups and downs, GB? What advice would you give?
I mean, that's a huge one.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, the when I started out, the market was a bit different.
Mm-hmm.
There were projects minting left, right, and center, minting out, and then kind of going on crazy runs non-stop. So at that time, I kind of decided to take a shotgun approach and think, fuck it, I can lose on 9 out of 10. If I hit one that does 10% of what Bored Ape's done, I'm laughing. And that cost me a reasonable amount of money minting a bunch of shit that was hyped up and promoted on Instagram, and they were
Mm-hmm.
giving away a Lamborghini,
Yep.
and
I know that. I remember
um,
that time frame. That's about when I
yeah,
got into it. I got into last August. So yeah. When
yes,
Lambo was the thing, right?
exactly. So that kind of was all very. It was extremely exciting time.
Oh,
But I
absolutely.
yeah, I mean, I wasn't doing research. I was seeing a project with a cool looking animation, and I was like, fuck it, I need that one. And um, yeah,
You and hundreds of thousands of other people.
yeah. And I learned fairly quickly that wasn't the way to go. And then I started doing more research into projects and
Uh-huh.
started finding a few projects that I really liked. And did quite well on a few of them. But also, and going back to kind of the point you made about taking profits, there was one project that I was in called Humans of the Metaverse,
Uh-huh.
and they were basically building their own world, and there were like 6,000 NFTs who all had different jobs, and depending on what job they had, they earned a salary, and you use that salary to then build out this metaverse. And it was kind of like a Sims crossed with an NFT,
Right.
where you'd be able to breed your people together eventually, and they're earning a salary, and you can build an office on your plot of land and all that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I minted quite a few of those, and then ended up buying quite a few more. I had like 25, and the floor price got up to point 0.3, and I was like, this is just such a great idea. I was working out, I was earning like 1,000 of their coin a day, and it was like 20. 20 cents for the coin.
Right.
So I was like, I'm earning like $200 a day. I'm just not selling any of these, and
Mm-hmm.
they're now worth literally zero.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so taking profits is huge, and I think the kind of part of what I got wrapped up in there was economics was really good in terms of the coin tokenomics.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but there was no use case for the coin other than like playing the game, which like you could buy a house, you could buy a land, and then what? You couldn't like really do anything.
Right.
And they never really created that use case for the coin.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I think kind of through those experiences, I now when I'm buying an NFT, unless I mean there are exceptions, you've got the free mint and you can get hype shit where you can get in and out
Right.
reasonably
Right.
quickly if you're
Right.
looking for a quick flip. If I'm buying anything that is staying in my wallet for longer than a few days, um, I'm looking at kind of as you would invest in a startup business. Um, Project needs to have a long-term plan.
Yep.
And it needs to be doing something differently to what's out there.
Mm-hmm.
And I think those are kind of the two big things that I look for. Market is so oversaturated right now,
Mm-hmm.
and it has been for a while.
Mm-hmm.
You're getting derivatives of derivatives of derivatives,
Yep.
and then another derivative of that in an AI version with some other different background color. And some of them do well, some of them don't, but none of them are going to be around in a few months' time.
Oh, 100%.
And I mean, people will end up bag holding and losing fortunes, um, because they don't understand what they're buying.
Yeah.
Where they're saying, oh, well, Bored Apes were point 0.2 18 months ago, or whenever, 15 months ago. It, they kind of in a bit of it. If they launch now, they wouldn't be successful. Firstly, they're in a bit of a different position where they are now such a big business that too big to fail is kind of, it's not a great term because you're never really too big to fail, but they've kind of reached that point where they've crossed into mainstream adoption.
Right.
Where I really do think they'll be one of the biggest brands of the next decade, and I think that's kind of that's my thinking. Why I've got my I don't check the floor price of mutants. I don't
Right.
check the floor price of other deed. I think those kind of as a brand, I'm long term invested in it, and at day to day, I'm not too worried.
Yeah. No.
Um,
And that makes sense. I think, that narrative. We had Kirsch on from the Internet Game. I don't know if you've heard of that project, but they're about to launch their second season, and they're kind of more social gaming concept. And he said all of the same things is, and I like how he described it. He's like, NFT 1.0 is over, and that's what we are reminiscing about last year. And NFT 2.0 is all of these things that we're talking about. You have to have proven founders. You have to have a business model that can bring in profits past secondary sales, right? All of these things. You have to be unique. And that's where I really think this kind of next stage is, and it'll be interesting to see how the cold winter, how long it lasts, and then where are these new legit NFT 2.0 projects at when things start coming back? What are your thoughts about that?
the best analogy I've heard on that is if you remember when the iPhones came out and there was like that the App Store came out and you could get an app where you could like pour beer on your screen, like you could
Yes.
tilt it and it was like the glass was moving and it would look like the beer was going down.
Yes.
What a useless, ridiculous app.
Right.
No one ever would download that now.
Yeah.
That was top of the App Store
Uh-huh.
because it was new, it was novel, and it was exciting at the
Yeah.
time. I mean, it sounds
Yeah.
ridiculous now,
Yeah.
but it was.
Yeah.
It was like, whoa, look what my phone can do. It's kind of like the glass is moving on my phone.
Yeah. This is super
With
cool.
yeah, exactly. Like at the time, that was sick. Um, it's kind of the same with NFTs. I
I
think
love that,
we're
dude.
scratching the surface right now.
Right.
We have got a bunch of apps where you're splashing a beer around your phone.
Yeah.
Um, there's a few other exceptions to that, of course. But we haven't got a Candy Crush. Not that it's particularly like advanced, but they've got in terms of a business, Candy Crush, what an incredible business.
They still have
Um,
over 200 million active users as of today, man. It's insane.
exactly, crazy.
Yeah.
And kind of that's where we've gone from kind of splashing a beer around on your phone to being able to do in-app purchases.
Right.
You've got this whole system where it's encouraging you to spend more, and we've moved on to where now people are spending hours playing these games on their phones.
Yeah. Yeah.
And other ones where you've got the opportunity to make income from them.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Dude, I love that analogy. I don't know if I vividly remember this one. It was like a rich kids app in the beginning, and people are paying like, I don't know, some absurd. It was like $500 to $1,000 to
yeah,
have like a ruby on your iPhone or some gem or some shit. And that was it. It was literally just like a picture that spun or a GIF, right? And it's like that is a great analogy because we just went through that. And we're still there kind of with this new free mint meta, right?
yeah, and it's we're feeling the space out. I think I'm ultra bullish on NFTs. I think everything. I saw a really good tweet the other day that ebooks are going to be the next big thing to go to NFTs, because it means if you're kind of investing in yourself or whatever, there could be a secondary market when you've done reading the book, and it gives the
Mm,
opportunities for authors to earn on royalties and that kind of thing from secondary sales as well.
right, right.
And they can raise money kind of in a more organized fashion. I can't remember what it is. If you're a Spotify musician and you have 1 million listens, you earn like $1,000. Um, you if you work out the amount of NFTs of your album you need to sell at point one, it's like 10 or less than 10
Oh
to kind of
yeah.
cover that same. I think the opportunities and bigger than that, kind of like season tickets to sports grounds, marriage licenses. When you buy a car, the documentation for that will all be NFTs.
Yep.
And I think there's so many use cases. Ones we like much smarter people me are thinking about and kind of working on it, and ones that probably we haven't even started or no one's working on yet.
Right, right.
That will become part of everyday life.
Yeah, man.
And I really do think that's where we're going. I think it's still so early. I think we're definitely not early in crypto anymore. We're kind of, I would say, middle. We're kind of mid. It's still not mass adoption.
Right,
But
right.
we're past the early adopter
We're on
stage.
a
I think we're at the
second
end of the,
quarter of the bell curve. Not to
yeah.
mass adoption yet. What is there? There's like early adopter. I don't remember. I went to school for that. That's how useful it was, right? I don't
Yeah,
remember the
like
terms.
and I think we're in a stage kind of behind on NFTs at the moment.
Yeah. Oh,
And
100%.
it's kind of, you got kind of all in the 2017 bull run, all the ICOs and the shit coins that launched then that are redundant slash non-existent now, and that will be the same. I think,
Yeah. Yeah. Well, a lot of that transferred directly right into the NFTs, right? That kind of ICO situation. They're like, well, this is a bust. What's next? And NFTs were sitting there primed and ready to pump. But to your point, like, last year I will remember for the rest of my life. Like, getting into that hate beast server as like the 11th, 100th person, then becoming a mod and watching it grow to over 500,000 people. Like that shit will never be replicated again, right? And it was just awesome to be like, I remember thinking to myself like, I'm literally a part of history right now, and it's cool, and it's continuing to go. Like how cool, how lucky are we?
yeah, I saw a tweet yesterday or the day before that said, "Remember when Bored Ape owners were showing off about turning down $500,000 for a JPEG of a monkey?" It's just like when you read that, you're like, God, this was just an insane like space and period.
Right,
It's
right. It's insane. It's insane.
yeah,
All right. Well, moving on, man. I want to talk about. So, I know your founder's not here. So, take us to like you go through this year. You found NFTs. Now you're in. You have apes. What brings you to the moment of like, you know what? I have an idea for an NFT project. I didn't know. I don't know if you wanted to start it alone. You had always found a partner. Like, can you just kind of take us through the generation of starting your project?
Yeah, so I mean to go just before we launched the project, I
Mm-hmm.
kind of had the idea that I was trading coins and doing decently from it. Then I was kind of trading NFTs, and I didn't feel like I was adding any real value to the economy anywhere.
Right.
Um, and I was doing all right, but I was bored. I was looking at charts for a few hours each day. I was making my trades. I was making a reasonable amount of money to kind of have the freedom to live my life.
Mm-hmm.
But it wasn't filling. So I kind of wanted to do something more. I wanted to kind of start a business in the space. I didn't really know what it was. And around, I don't know, maybe the late summer last year, I kind of was like, you know what would be really cool? Rolling papers with mutant apes on, and kind of
Yes.
doing some real life products around that. So I started looking into that. I started working with some friends, and then we started thinking like, let's build a business where we use at first our NFTs to feature on products, and then we're licensing out NFTs from community to feature on IRL products.
Right.
So we were going like round the houses with what products we were going to do. Eventually got to clothing, and I spent thousands of pounds and too many hours thinking I was going to be a clothing designer for a couple of months without having a clue about clothes. Um,
It's a cutthroat industry, man.
yeah, yeah. And like ordering samples, and they were fucking shit. And I was having fun doing it,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I was kind of still trading in the background. And it was more of a hobby, but I was doing that with a group of my close friends, who were also in the space, and my cousin. And I was doing it full time, but I didn't have a 9 to 5, and everyone else did.
Yeah.
And it got frustrating quite quickly because kind of I wanted to move at a pace they weren't moving at. Um, we knew nothing about what was going on. I was funding most of the investment, and it just became a money pit where we were making no progress, and
Right.
like there was no sign of progress.
Right.
So, um, can you give me 2 seconds just to run to the toilet?
Yeah, you know
Um,
what? We're gonna do that. We're gonna do this both together because I gotta go to the bathroom real bad too.
okay, perfect. I remember where I'm up to. I'll come back.
All right, chat, stay engaged. We're going to the bathroom real quick. Definitely need an intermission screen.
Yeah, that was sorry. I've been
BRB, dude.
downing coffee.
Thank God you said something because I didn't even realize how bad I had to go until you said something. Because this is just a great conversation, man. Um, okay, so you're saying that you're creating
Yeah, the
t-shirts.
clothing.
You're full-time job friends just can't cut the speed that you want to go at. You're funding most of it.
So at that point, I was like, this isn't really going anywhere.
Right.
So I kind of the NFT space was kicking off. I was speaking to my co-founder Adam, who I met during the COVID pandemic. He runs his own medical recruitment business, and he had his business partner in that business is a family friend of the owner of the business.
Okay.
So they kind of got introduced through that. Myself and Adam ended up working together and brokering some PPE deals. We got on really well and continued to talk. So I was kind of speaking to him about the space in general throughout this time. I kind of got him into the space. Um, one of to add an extra kind of spinning plate to it at the time, one of my very close friends is a football soccer agent for some quite high profile Premier League players.
Okay.
So at the time, there were players putting out NFTs,
Right.
and I was like, let's go to them, let's make an NFT, and we'll do that. So we started working. I started working with him on that idea,
Uh-huh.
and then I started working on Adam on what became Hybrid Humans, and I was still kind of half doing the clothing thing. So I
Uh-huh.
was running, kind of trying to do the three of them at once, and I realized clothing one was going nowhere.
Right.
The football one was kind of like there was no substance to it. It was licensing the players' faces, and kind of it was a cash grab. Kind of there
Yeah,
was
what
nothing
all
there.
current celebrity ones pretty much are.
Yeah, exactly. And it kind of it wasn't what I wanted to do, so I backed out of that one, having met with a few of the footballers, which I really enjoyed, and kind
Right.
of speaking to them about NFTs, which was fun.
That's a cool experience.
And then I kind of closed off the two of those around October, November, which is when I started really working on this with Adam. Um, so, and our idea for what is now Hybrid Humans and the HyHu network started off very differently. I know someone in real life in the UK who has got a Web2 based pay to play raffle site. And he was raffling off cars and like watches and cash and all that kind of thing, and doing really well out of it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I don't know exactly kind of it's a little bit of a blur when the exact kind of moment happened, but I realized there was a gap in the market for that for Web3. I thought that a pay to play raffle site where you can win NFTs instead of winning these like physical prizes or cash or whatever, and you would connect a smart wallet to enter instead of entering with fiat currency.
Right.
And then I thought, well, there are other businesses like that where you kind of pay to play
Right.
that exist in Web 2 but don't exist in Web 3 yet, and there's a real gap in the market for that. So
Mm-hmm.
kind of went from there to okay, let's build, and this is conversations between Adam and I at the tail end of last year, kind of November, and it went from there to okay, let's build a network of these pay-to-play ecosystems that will all talk to each other. They'll all run on the same internal currency. The first one will be this raffle site. Then we're going to build a Web3 poker site where you'll connect your wallet, you'll enter poker competitions, and instead of the payouts being instead of the payouts being cash, they'll be NFTs.
Mm-hmm.
And then a third ecosystem after that, and then let's build out the biggest network of pay-to-play in Web3.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where the idea started. We kind of realized about a month into that if we linked it in with an NFT, we could achieve a few things that would really make us stand out. And one of those would be that we're doing something completely unique. Two would be that it would be very difficult to replicate because you'd need the entire pay-to-play network
Right.
ecosystem supporting it. And the third one, which you kind of alluded to earlier, which is the biggest one for us, is that it would solve the biggest issue in NFTs, which is we think is sustainability.
Right. Right.
How do you generate funds after the mint date? At some point, however much you mint for, you're going to run out of funds if you've got nothing else coming in. With the best people in charge, with the best plans, you need something else. Otherwise, you have however long the lifespan is of the runway you've got.
Right.
And by having these ecosystems that are going to be kind of bringing in outside funds constantly,
Mm-hmm.
if we could link that to an NFT,
Right.
we will have created a way where we can sustainably reward our holders that is genuinely sustainable and attached to a long-term business plan.
Right.
And we can continue to add value, and a key part of it is that it's scalable. There'll be a new ecosystem launching every 6 months that will create a fresh revenue stream. And we're looking to host kind of around 75 to 100 ETH worth of competitions each week on each ecosystem. So when there's just the when there's just the raffle site, that will launch. That will bring in a set of revenue for the holders. When the poker site launches too, there's a new stream of revenue. When the third ecosystem launches, there's now three streams of revenue. And becoming a holder with time gets more and more valuable. There's a real kind of progression and a long-term plan with the value of the NFT collection as well as the business as a whole.
Right.
Um, so we decided to kind of go back in the story. We decided that we wanted to tie it into an NFT collection. We started thinking about what we wanted to do with the artwork, which is always an important part of kind of any NFT. We thought be utility based, we could just be a pass. But we wanted to be a bit more creative than that.
Right.
And we, through a mutual connection, um, got in touch with a Spanish guy called JL Giles, who has worked with Marvel since 2015. Um, he's featured on their website and on their YouTube,
Mm-hmm.
and has got a long history of more traditional artistic credentials prior to that. Um, so he helped us design the artwork, which is based on dogs playing poker, but with 10 different animal heads on human bodies. So it's kind of that's where the name hybrid humans came from.
Yeah, so I put the artwork up. I got the grid thing to work, so people are looking at the artwork now. Um, I love it. It's fun. It's different. It's colorful. I like that it's colorful too. I definitely actually see Hispanic influence in this as well. A lot of primary colors, uh, which is cool, man. I mean, they look really cool. They're definitely different. I think they're different and unique.
Yeah, they are different. There's a lot of variety within the collection. It was a nightmare getting all the traits to work with the different shaped heads.
I'm sure
Um,
it was.
yeah, but we're really happy with how they've turned out. And he has been a really great guy to work with.
Yeah,
And is staying on board with the project. He
cool.
is a part owner, so he came on board. We started designing the artwork, and then we got to the point where we were like, okay, we need to launch the socials. And through an in real life friend of mine, he knew some of the mods at MV3 from university,
Yeah.
completely coincidentally. So we spoke to them about the project. They really liked it and wanted to come on. So a couple of them and my in real life friend joined as kind of our core team.
That's
Um,
awesome, man.
and then we reached out to Ape Gang, who is
Yeah.
one of the most well-known Bored Ape holders. He completely coincidentally lives about 3 or 4 miles away from me. So we met up in real life. We got on really well. He has invested into the project, and he's helped us. Uh, Adam, him, and I have kind of funded it to where we are.
Right.
So we have built, or it isn't not we. We have got a great company in the US who are a development team, who have been building the raffle site for the last 6 or 8 weeks. And that's going to launch in the next couple of weeks. So we've funded that completely ourselves.
That's amazing.
And those pay to play public raffles will be live at some point in August.
Right.
So
So you said a couple things that I just want to make sure we clarify because, like you said, you need to understand the industry. So can you just expand on that a little more? Is it you? Is it your partner? Like who has the connections? And how do you go about expanding into what is a traditional Web 2 business with the Web 3? Can you expand on that a little more?
Yes, so it's my connection to a person who runs he's kind of talked me through the financial side of the business of kind of what they're running in Web 2 kind of raffles. It's a reasonably, even though it's a Web 2 thing, there's a reasonably low cost. It's just a website. They're selling digital tickets.
Mm-hmm.
They've got a bit of a different, they've got a membership kind of
Right.
program, which kind of links with the NFT side of things, but it's not an NFT. Um, and he's kind of given me quite a good insight into that side of the business, what level you need to be operating at to be profitable, where you
Right.
kind of need to set the benchmark at, in terms of entrance numbers and that kind of things, where what ticket sales need to be
Right.
set at. Um, Exciting part, I'm conscious we're kind of running out of time. I kind of want to mention how it all ties into the NFT, because that is
I can go a little longer if you can. I just know it's late for you.
awesome. Yeah. No, 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 my girlfriend is fast asleep. I checked on her last I went to
All
the
right. Yeah.
toilet, so
Well,
I'm.
we can still go. So don't be too stressed out about that.
Um, so with the NFT collection, um, each ecosystem. So just to jump back to the raffle site, which, as I said, will be launching next month. You'll log on, you'll connect your smart wallet, you'll buy our internal only token. So it's not a tradable token. The reason is we don't want to be a security.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we want to be able to maintain the price,
Mm-hmm.
which is 0.007 ETH. And when you use it, we want it to be gasless, because if you're using a token that's priced at that much, you're going to be paying pretty much the same amount in gas each time you enter a raffle. So you connect your smart wallet, you buy the internal only tokens, you'll enter one of our raffles. In each raffle, there'll be multiple prizes, so there'll be around 25 ETH worth of prizes in each raffle, ranging from a blue chip NFT, to some 1 to 10 ETH prizes, and then some prizes up to 1 ETH.
Do you want me to
Those
show
prizes,
the screen grabs right now? Then is that
yeah,
helpful?
that'd be awesome if you
Okay.
could.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let me do that real quick.
So this is kind of when it comes up is what HyHu raffles will look like when it launches.
Mm-hmm.
There'll be between 2,500 to 6,000 tickets available for each draw, and all the prizes in every prize pool will be funded and in an escrow wallet that you'll be able to click on and see them all there prior to ticket sales going live. So we're not using the ticket sales to buy the prizes. Um, there'll be multiple draws every week, and as I said, kind of 75 to 100 ETH worth of prize pools each week is what we're looking to build up to.
And it's an
That
amazing.
is all.
Go ahead.
Sorry,
No. Go ahead.
that's all open to the public. So anyone can log on, connect their wallet, and for 0.007 ETH, they can to one of these raffles. So this is kind of how the site will look. You'll see um, how many tokens are, how many entrants there are for the raffle, how many are gone, the prize pool, and then the prizes in them. There'll be a link to the wallet with all the prizes in, and as I said, is open to the public. The exciting side is kind of how it all ties into the NFT, and this is what really makes us different. With each ecosystem, there'll be a new set of utilities. So for the HyHu raffle site, there'll be 10 utilities. We've announced 5 of them so far, just because it's quite complicated. When we originally started trying to explain this idea, Adam and I wrote a 28-page Medium article, and it didn't cover everything.
I started reading it
Um,
and I was like, man, I don't have time for this whole thing.
so we kind of whittled it down to the first 5 utilities, and then the other 5 we'll announce after we launch. But the main focus and kind of the central utility, which will be um, utility 1 for each additional ecosystem as it launches,
Uh-huh.
is that 50% of the profits generated from the public pay-to-play raffles and 50% of the royalties generated from secondary sales be used to fund the raffles on the right, which is the free holders only raffles. So every week Whilst there are these
Mm,
public raffles going on, 50% of the profit from the ticket sales is funding these additional raffles for holders that are completely free to enter.
right.
They're going to be on the same website. You're going to have to physically go on the website and click enter. People that are entering the public raffles will see the holders one. If they try to enter, they'll get told to go and buy a hybrid human. And holders will enter these for free. That's the first utility.
And so real quick to
Uh,
clarify here, the holder raffle is only finite entries because you have to hold an NFT, right?
exactly.
Yeah, love it.
So I'll get to the kind of the collection size at a point, but there'll be no one entering that other than holders. No promotional things to enter those. It will
Mm-hmm.
be exclusively for holders.
Right,
Second utility, which is my favorite one, is available to holders of our rarer NFTs.
right.
Um, and they will essentially be able to leverage the power of the raffle site and enter any NFT they own in our public raffles alongside our other prizes and personally benefit from the profit of the ticket sales.
Love this idea.
So essentially how it will look is you'll connect your wallet, and let's say in the example you can see the dog, the Bored Ape Kennel Club,
Mm-hmm.
which I think is about 7.5 ETH or 8 ETH,
Right,
is owned by one of our, or was owned by one of our rare holders that qualify for this straw.
right.
Would have connected their wallet, would have registered that they had an NFT of ours that qualifies them to do this. Using our trait analyzer, we will agree a fair value for the Bored Ape Kennel Club dog. So it won't be just based on the floor price of the collection. So let's say that one's worth 10 ETH. You would then pay them 10 ETH up front. Simultaneously to that, it will be transferred to our prize escrow wallet.
Mm-hmm.
So there's no risk for them at this point. They've been paid 100% the value. Once we own the NFT, it will come in here. You'll see it. It will be in the upcoming prize pool. We'll do all the usual advertising. Tickets will be sold. The raffle will then take place. Presuming the raffle sells out, the person that submitted the dog will receive an additional 50% of the value. So they'll get another 5 ETH
Mm-hmm.
for submitting the dog in the raffle and then doing nothing else. If ticket sales don't sell out, there'll be other thresholds, but we're intending to set the ticket sales at levels that sell out for each raffle.
Right. I mean,
Um,
not many other places that you can get a 50% on your return with no risk, pretty much. I mean,
exactly.
yes, it's hinging on ticket sales, but that's exactly what I was gonna ask, and I'm sure you have a narrative around this, but the ticket sales is the big it factor here, right? And so how I am interpreting everything right now is the genius about this in particular with the NFTs is you still have the public that can enter without an NFT. So hopefully that will fuel enough to keep it going and keep people's interest. Do you want to just dive deeper on there about your thought process around what if you don't sell out, or how confident you are in these things selling out? I'm assuming you put a lot of thought around this.
Yeah, so I mean, the key to the success of this project is that the pay-to-play ecosystems are successful,
Mm-hmm.
and that we've got users on those that are logging in and buying. You see when tweet goes out where someone says, "I've just sold my Bored Ape. What floor am I going to sweep?" And tweets just go viral. We're genuinely going to be buying hundreds of NFTs every week. We're going to be engaging with the community. We're going to be saying, we're going to be tweeting that out, and then we're actually going to be going out and sweeping floors, buying projects, and buying stuff for the prize pool. So
Right.
we're expecting to get a lot of engagement that way.
Mm-hmm.
Also, the raffle takes place. These people have entered. Someone has entered, paid 0.007 ETH and won a blue chip NFT for less than the price of gas.
Yeah.
That's going to go viral as well. So when people are seeing that, I mean, people are taking punts. It's in your head. That's kind of an inconsequential amount of ETH. It's and if you look at the first, or I look at the first two decimal places, I don't know how much ETH I've got. I don't look beyond that.
Right.
Um,
Yeah, you got multiple digits after decimal, like your zeros.
yeah,
Things are great, right?
exactly. And then kind of
If you're buying, not selling.
To On top of that, people are also going to see that the holders for nothing have won blue chip NFTs just for holding a hybrid human in the holders only raffles. So we think there'll be a really kind of exciting cycle of kind of marketing that it will do itself.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We're also going to do more traditional marketing around the pay to play sites,
Right.
kind of immediately after we mint out the Genesis collection.
Yeah.
And that's we didn't want to do that for the Genesis collection because we wanted to do it in a more traditional NFT sense. But we will this will be a traditional kind of business that will need the users. So we will be doing more traditional marketing and a paid marketing campaign for the pay to play sites.
I love it. And so my natural next question is, um, this all fine and dandy for people that are really into NFTs, but that's an extremely small market. So are you planning on putting TVs or cars or just cold hard cash into the public as well to entice more people to play? What are your thoughts? And because you said traditional marketing there, and my marketing brand head goes to, this is just an incredibly small market right now. So the NFT community can only fund this so much.
Yes and no.
Okay.
Um, we're definitely focusing on the NFT community. Uh, the volume right now is crap. The market's fucked.
Mm-hmm.
So we're not going to be looking to be hosting 100th of raffles when the market launches. But when you're looking at the weekly volume on just kind of OpenSea,
Right.
the top five projects are doing kind of anywhere from 15 to 25,000 ETH between them.
Mm-hmm.
So 100 ETH worth of raffles in the grand scheme of things of what's being spent in the market is not anywhere near being significant.
Right.
Um, We also, with each ecosystem we launch, there will be a new user base we're targeting, and they will eventually kind of cross over and overlap. The point of this is we're building a business for the long term.
Yeah.
If we start off the raffle site and we're hosting 10 ETH a week of raffles, and the holder raffles naturally will have smaller prize pools, but that's building up and you can see the progression. In 6 months' time, our poker site will launch. There'll be people that will play poker that won't necessarily want to enter the raffles, and
Mm-hmm.
that will then create an additional set of things. When the third ecosystem launches, there'll be a slightly new demographic and target market that will be targeted there. So it kind of we're growing this as a business where first of all, we're not relying on the mint to do any of this. Between Adam, I, and Ape Gang, we're in for about $100,000, and it we could launch this without minting the NFT.
I love it.
Um, it, it so we're not relying on any kind of funds or anything like that to get us going. We can be patient with it. If we're hosting 5 ETH of raffles a week, it's our site. We can do it at whatever rate we want. We're expecting it to be more than that straight away. We're looking at hosting kind of 25 ETH worth of raffles in the first week when we launch the site, and then to grow it up to 75 to 100 ETH of raffles over the coming, like the next few months before we then launch the poker site.
I love it.
But then there will be still obviously the focus, and these raffles will be ongoing kind of every day,
Yeah. Yeah.
or multiple times a week.
So a couple of things I've heard here. One, I think everything that you're saying is right. One, you're slowly going into it. Two, you are self-funding this, which most people don't do. Three, you have a business model that can monetize outside. Listen, there is not many people that have been on this show that have been some of the most hype projects in the space say, I don't need to mint out. We're still gonna do this, right? And honestly, I think that is gonna be more and more the common saying going forward, because like we said before in our amazing conversation leading up to this, is you have to have a business model and multiple sources of revenue other than secondary sales. So it's just amazing to hear that you've fought this far in advance, and you got some other alpha that you're just dropping right there, and alpha to people that have never heard project, but now you're talking about poker, man. We just went down the rabbit hole of raffles, and we still got poker and maybe even more. So, is there anything else you want to talk about on the raffles before we move on to how the poker system's going to work and utility for holders in that aspect?
Yeah, so well, just a very quick run through of the other couple of the other utilities we've mentioned. The third utility is to do with the artwork and the artist. So JL, who I mentioned before, staying on board with the project, there'll be weekly draws and competitions for holders to win free commissioned pieces by him, and that could be a comic book
Mm,
cover, a customization of existing NFTs, or something more traditional like a photo of you and your dog, and that will be claimable as a one of one NFT and a free physical piece, a free physical copy as well. Um, so that is
I
the
remember
third
you telling
utility.
me that, and I immediately was like, I need to win this so I can get him to do a badass midlife crisis logo.
Yeah, exactly.
Dude, that's so
Um,
cool. So cool, man. What else do
yeah,
you
so
have
it's
on utility side for that or
so the fourth utility is all holders will have between a 5 and 15% discount on the 0.007 HyHu token price.
mm-hmm.
Um, and that will depend on the rarity of their NFT. And they'll also have an early access period before tickets go on general sale. So there'll be 2,500 to 6,000 tickets per raffle available. If they're selling out straight away, we are just going to host more raffles. But if there's a particular raffle that a holder wants to enter because they like the prize pool, they'll have an opportunity to do that before they go on general sale.
Dude, that's amazing. I love it. Dude, yeah, it's nice to hear how in depth you thought about this utility because we actually had a very interesting conversation with our project on Tuesday, and so they're launching seasons to their game, right? And they've really only they're in this situation where they're trying to build a gaming ecosystem, so like actual individual NFTs with like lifetime memberships don't make a ton of sense to them because they need new people and they need a public to play, right? So they're in this interesting predicament where like the utility has kind of become secondary in the fact that they want more new people to play their game and actually the funness of the game and the community and people playing the game has become really the utility. Whereas you're in a different position because you've figured out and you've thought in such detail of how to monetize this that you can now offer up awesome utility to holders if they want to hold it for a lifetime, right? Like that's a really cool idea in the sense that not, you know, you easily read everybody's roadmap and they're like, oh, lifetime utility this and access to that. But it's not thought through. It's not thought about revenue and business models and how that actually is visualized, but you all have done that. So bravo, man.
Yeah, and that's I mean, the original concept was mine, but that is part of the reason that I brought Adam in kind of very early, and he's very much a co-founder.
Right.
Um, he has built the most mind-boggling Excel spreadsheet that's got thousands of inputs that all you change one thing and it knocks onto everything else.
Right.
He kind of has got that brain where he just goes into the detail and has worked out every single kind of scenario and number. And we've got spreadsheets for all of it. So that's kind of a very important part of the background and part of my close friends I couldn't have done this with. Adam, I have known for kind of I've met him kind of less than 5 times in real life, but we
Right.
were speaking every day throughout COVID,
Right.
and we built quite a close relationship through that period.
It's amazing.
And kind of respected what he's done in his business career. He's a very switched on guy, and just thought that he had a lot to add kind of in that aspect of the project in terms of going into the detail of all those sort of things.
Dude, incredible. And how did you get linked up again? I think I missed that.
So his business partner in his recruitment business is a family friend of the owner
Yes.
of the
Okay.
business that I worked for.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they kind of were scratching the surface of brokering PPE. And they came to the company I was at asking us to fund their deals, and it kind of went down the line of them kind of brokering on our behalf,
Right, right.
and but us working very closely together doing that.
So that's so cool. Okay, so you have figured out a really interesting system to sustain a project, give really cool utility to the holders. But wait, people, there's more. So let's talk about this next phase. You mentioned poker. So how is this working for holders in the public eco? Is this a public, a private thing? How is that gonna work?
So all the ecosystems will have the same public-facing side. They'll all run on the same HyHu token.
Okay.
So one of the utilities that is not in the first five that we haven't announced, but we've kind of given sneak previews of, is that you'll be able to stake your hybrid humans and generate HyHu tokens, which you can then use to enter the pay-to-play ecosystems. So those will be usable on the raffle sites. They'll also be usable on the poker sites. And as I said, part of the reason that they're internal only is that you can now move them between the ecosystems and enter kind of anything gasless. So if you
You heard it
play
here, folks. The alpha alert on that one. Appreciate it, man. Thanks for dropping that.
so you'll kind of log onto the poker site. If you haven't used the raffle site, you'll connect your wallet in the same way. You'll be able to buy the tokens. And something I haven't mentioned today on previously is that if got the option to buy the tokens in bulk, you'll obviously have to pay gas when you're buying the tokens.
Mm-hmm.
But that gas fee will be refunded in additional tokens if you're buying in bulk. So we're kind of trying to minimize gas and making it as genuine to the tagline as possible, to the opportunity to win a blue chip NFT for less than the price of gas. So
Right.
that's
So that brings up the question of like the toke. So for back to the raffles, like this hybrid human holder raffle, I still need to spend tokens, or is that completely
no,
free to me?
no tokens. Complete. You have to go on the website. You have
Yeah.
to click enter. It will register. It's in your wallet, and you're
Okay.
in.
Okay.
The tokens are just for the paid raffles.
Yep.
So
Okay. That makes sense.
if
That
you
makes sense.
generate those as a holder, then you can just wait until there's a raffle you want to enter them in,
Right.
or a poker tournament. So
Yep.
if you play online poker, to go across to that one, you'll go onto a poker site, and there'll be on the big ones, there'll be competitions running pretty much non-stop. There'll be one where it's $1 to enter and the prize pool's $20, and then there'll be five of those ones kind of running every hour or so, and then there'll be a bigger tournament every few hours, and then a big tournament maybe once or twice a week. So it will be a similar sort of concept. There'll be different prize points. There'll be different quantities of tokens you'll need to enter different poker tournaments, and you'll have the opportunity. You'll play in these poker tournaments.
Mm-hmm.
They won't be cash games. They'll
Mm-hmm.
be tournament structure,
Mm-hmm.
and the payouts will be NFTs. So in the bigger tournaments where they have similar sized prize pools to this, first place will win a mutant ape or a coda or something like that, and then kind of second place, third place, fourth place, so on, smaller and smaller NFTs.
That's amazing. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure people are playing poker for NFTs somewhere on the internet. But what you've done is really legitimized a system that is going to be sustainable and bring in profit for you, but also give opportunity to people that are in the ecosystem or playing the games to win. Actually, it's not the and love not the dog on the nanopass people, but it was one of the they've been on, we've had some of the founders on our show, great fantastic people, but the original idea of nanopass was flawed in the fact that these boxes, they made a ton of money from mint, then they bought up a bunch of really good NFTs, and then after that, not a ton of money left. So now it's up to like what can they use their brand and clout to bring in more NFTs for these boxes, whereas you will be able to sustain blue chip level NFTs indefinitely as long as people keep on playing the raffles, right?
Yeah, exactly. And kind of as the ecosystems launch and grow, there'll be more and more revenue streams. Something that we haven't really spoken about is we're going to be buying loads of NFTs.
Mm-hmm.
That kind of puts us in a unique position with other projects where we can offer types of collaboration that no one else really can.
Oh yeah.
We can say we've got 10eth to come in and spend buying your project. What can you do for our holders? And whatever benefits those end up being will go into our holders only draws.
Mm-hmm.
We've also got it kind of plans to license out is the wrong word, but let's say, for example, NanoPass, the project you just mentioned, wanted to hold a poker competition for their holders. There isn't somewhere they can do that right now, really.
Right.
I mean, they can use kind of Poker Now, but that's got to be free and it's not really an official structure. So they will be able to use our website, get a table exclusively or a tournament running exclusively
Mm.
for their holders. They can make the entry requirements whatever they want, and they're paying us a fee or some sort of benefits for our holders to be able to use that website to host their own poker tournaments for their own communities. And that's something that will also grow with each of the ecosystems. We'll be able to offer that out. There'll be our own websites with our own capabilities to host whatever we want on them in terms of we can make the raffle have whatever entry requirements with whatever prizes, and we will, as marketing tools, one of the things we'll be doing is we'll be hosting free, and we've done this. We've given away 5eth over the last month in free to enter raffles. That literally you just had to follow us on Twitter and join the Discord. Um, so we will be doing bigger ones of those on the HyHu raffle site once it launches as a marketing thing as well. We can set the entry requirements the same on the poker when it launches to however we want. So that gives us flexibility to create partnerships and offer other projects things that no one else can, which I mean we think we're going to be have our DMs flooded with projects that want to collaborate with us. Um,
100%. And I can't wait to figure out how Midlife Crisis can collaborate with you as well. There's tons of ideas. I got ideas. I told you, man. So, dude, and I'm thinking so Silos, which I'm assuming is part of your community as well. That's how we got linked up.
sure.
I mean, listen, I love Silos. One of the most magical experiences of my life is, we just recently went to NFT NYC, and there's a guy, Bonji, and Silos. We met them in real life, and, we got to buy them some beers and hang out, and it was like, just surreal hearing them talk about like finding us as a show and them listening to it. And it was that first pinch me moment in everything we've been doing over the last 6 to 8 months, right? That being said, I'm gonna tell Silos I'm a little upset that he didn't bring you guys to our attention sooner, because not only are you an amazing dude and your story is great, this is just a solid ass idea, man. Really good idea. So, props to you to thoroughly thinking through it.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds scary, but we genuinely believe this is a $1 billion idea.
A
And
100%. I mean, so what is the pay to play Web 2 ecosystem worth now?
I mean, I don't have the numbers on it, but it would,
I would be
it would,
billions, right?
yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
and
yeah.
and something again that I haven't mentioned is everyone says we want to be the next Bored Ape.
Right,
What they mean is they want to be the next blue chip.
right,
What something that I think makes a blue chip is referring to NFTs is being the first.
right.
So with punks, they were kind of literally the first. With Bored Apes, they were the first to build around the IP
Mm-hmm,
and kind of having a community.
mm-hmm,
World of Women were the first to empower women in the space.
mm-hmm.
If you're looking at the um, pay to earn games, Wolf Game is the only one around to any extent still, and that was the first to launch
Yep,
in that kind of genre.
yep.
Um, their metaverses, you've got Decentraland and Sandbox, which were the first two to launch there. There's loads of examples of the top tier. Azuki were the first anime project. You've got loads of examples. I mean, there are other projects that have done well in the meantime, like Hape, to have, I mean, still maintaining an impressive floor price. I'm not sure exactly what it is now. None that have reached the levels of the people that have got there first for their particular genre.
Right.
And we are the first that are attaching these pay-to-play ecosystems to an NFT and building a network out of it. Potential in that we really think is huge. If you own one of these NFTs where you can get 50% more of the value, what's that worth on the secondary market to someone that's holding a mutant ape that can enter it in one of these raffles worth 20eth and gain an extra 10eth? It's it's kind of a very exciting prospect, and the fact that that's not a one-off pass either. And there will be, for holders that don't win those, there'll be the opportunity.
Right.
We'll do kind of raffles to give away like a golden ticket where you'll be
Right.
able to use that.
Dude,
Um,
thank you. Thank you for again, we said this earlier. We talk about universal themes here to success, right? And you just reiterated, because I've been saying this narrative a while too. Not did I realize how massive being first is, man. It's just such a game changer. That being said, like, yes, there are a bajillion derivatives that are very successful and still make money. But the pathway of being first is so much easier if you've got your shit together. Another reason why we're like totally bullish on your idea, I'm very bullish on our brand, because I don't think anyone in the space is doing it like we do. And, most influencers are 1,000x your bag by this project, which is a bunch of
mm,
fluff. We're building stories, we're connecting people. We have unlimited content in a shitty market, right? Most other influencers don't. So being first and being different are so massive, man. So once again, for like the 100th time, props to you, dude. Props to you.
yeah, I think it is kind of. It sounds obvious once you've said it.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of those things that you actually kind of do need to say, oh yeah, that makes a lot of sense when you kind of look out and you take a step back, and actually is the common theme amongst a lot of the projects that have been successful and
Right.
maintained success.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's kind of that's the first step. It's then being able to do something that is genuinely different. And
Mm-hmm.
like you said, it's kind of the easier option not to do that.
Right.
Um, People have made a lot of money in this space in a short period of time by not too much thought, and just kind of rinsing, repeat, putting out projects non-stop. And I think that's the nature of the space. It's kind of very short-sighted at times.
Yep.
Very people. If you say I'm kind of investing for the long term, I've got kind of no intentions of selling it. It's a completely different prospect to you're there checking the floor price the whole time. The floor price drops, everyone's panicking in the Discord.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's a completely different mentality, and that's kind of what we're trying to build amongst our community is people that actually understand the long-term vision of what we're doing.
Right. Right.
Potential of this is so huge that yes, we're launching in a bear market right now, but
Right.
we've got genuine utility that's coming straight away with the launch.
Mm-hmm.
So we know we're also not reinventing the wheel. This is an established Web2 business model, as all the other ecosystems will be.
Right.
These businesses are profitable. They work. People enter pay-to-play raffles the whole time. Um, the biggest one in the States is called Wizzer. Um,
Okay. Yeah, yeah. You had asked me if I heard of that. I have no clue.
yeah,
I've never dabbled in this sector or industry. But yeah, and again, it's been proven through Web 2. Now you're able to replicate that and add extra utility and functionality. It seems like a win-win. And then again, if dude, if you can prove this out in this market, just hold the hell on when it gets better, because you're going to be on a rocket ship to Mars real quick.
yeah. I mean, the when you see kind of it's been frustrating. We've literally been working on this since kind of November. And we've seen loads of stuff launch in that time. Stuff that you're expecting to do well that doesn't necessarily do well, and then shit like goblins,
Yeah.
where you're just left scratching your heads for days thinking.
Yeah.
I remember waking up the next morning and seeing the clips from the spaces where people are just going rah, 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 for
Right.
like
Right.
4 hours, and it was just,
So those
it was
guys are
funny.
those guys are definitely connected on the back end. So
Yes,
that
yes, yes,
that
yes.
that helps as well. Um,
Having that's something also, like having been a founder, it's given me an unbelievable insight into kind of the NFT market and
mhm.
the dark arts of it. There is an unbelievable amount of
Yep.
activity on secondary markets that is not genuine.
Oh. Oh yeah.
There's a reasonably small group of people that are rinsing and repeating projects and just launching under different names and faces.
Yep.
Um,
Yeah, I would
and
say the darkest of the art is the and people that are highly lauded as amazing people in this space. Uh, the rinsing and repeating in this just utter atrocity of fake volume is pretty frustrating to see.
yeah, and it's, I mean, there are there are tools available out there,
Hmm.
and we've not gone down this route, and I mean we bots kind of and Twitter followers and stuff like that in the Discord as well. When we launched a project, just to jump back a second, is we kind of were like, okay, we'll be at 5,000 followers by now, but by within a week.
Right.
It's kind of, you go into that and you've got that expectation that you see projects go 10,000, 40,000, 80,000 followers
Hmm.
over, and like kind of like Hate Beast did.
Yep.
There was a whole bunch of them at that time. It got to the point where there was a project called Rare Bears. They had like 110,000 followers on Twitter,
Man, I tried to get
80,000
them
members in
on
the
this show, dude. And then I was,
eh,
thank God I didn't.
yeah, and 80,000 people in the Discord. They minted, I think, 2,000. And
Yep.
the market, like, it was so, people were there because they was a big follower count on Twitter, grinding to get whitelist. So it kind of was like a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Right. Well,
But then it
not to
got,
mention these projects were paying for bots as well. Over 75% of those followers are 100% fake.
oh, for sure. And that's, so we've not paid for any bots, and we were just like, we've got a great idea. Artwork's cool.
Right.
Doing something different. Like we were like 10 weeks in, and we've got 800 followers. Like what the fuck is going on?
Right.
It
Right.
was it was, and then you'd see the goblins happen, and we'd be like, oh, um, and then I mean we got a lot of traction through hosting those free to enter raffles and kind of people coming in.
Yep.
We hosted them on pre-mint, so they had to join the Discord, and we
Yep.
kind of took that opportunity to educate them about the project, and we've grown kind of much quicker through that. But we're at 5,000, 5,500 followers.
Right.
Um, so it's that's kind of, I think, what a genuine follower count looks like.
Oh, it
Um,
absolutely does. And I mean, my my follower account and honestly, like because you get caught up in that, especially when you're like a mod or working for a big project. You're like, oh my god, like I'm over 10,000. This is crazy. And then you inevitably fall into that trap for a little bit where you're checking that shit every day, almost every hour. And now I just don't care about it because I didn't know how Twitter operated back then, nor how any of these operated back then. But my method immediately is whether, especially in the project or influencer or just anybody that you're genuinely saying like, oh, this person is interesting. I kind of want to listen to what they're saying is the quality of their followers, right? If Digimental or you yourself are following somebody that's worth 10,000 followers in my mind, right?
yeah, yeah, for sure. I think it's something that kind of we've been focused on. It's the quality, not the quantity.
Mm-hmm.
Because once we prove the kind of concept and the raffle site launches, we have no doubt that the kind of the hordes will come, for want of a better expression. We need people right now to actually take the time to understand what we're doing,
Mm-hmm.
um, because we don't want people on the whitelist that are waiting to see, is this going to be successful for me to flip straight away? And if it's not, then I'm not going to mint it, and if it is, then great, I'm going to flip it.
Right.
Because we don't want to. We're not like a 2-3 day burnout project where the floor price peaks in that time, which I
Right.
think happens with the majority of projects that even reach the stage of successfully minting.
Right.
Um,
Yeah, exactly. You need to get there first.
yeah, so it's I mean, it's a very strange market at times, but we're confident in what we're doing. If we don't sell out straight away, we're not going to panic. The Genesis drop has only got 1,111 in, so we're fairly confident we will sell that out.
Right.
But
Right.
I mean, we've got plans for kind of each level we get to,
Yeah.
and we're just trying to get as many people that actually understand our kind of vision of being the biggest network of to play Web3 sites,
Right.
because we've got the raffle site, we've got the poker site. The third one we haven't given away any clues on.
Yeah.
The plan isn't to stop there. We're
Yeah.
doing one NFT.
Right.
The rest of the growth is happening on the pay to play sites, and
I love it. And
from
you're like that is massive to think. You have the potential to create a multi-billion dollar industry and you're doing one NFT collection.
yeah, and kind of that's, we want people to understand the long term. I mean, the raffle site is launching this month, so it will be quick, but be at once a second kind of site launches and there's an additional stream of revenue. Think at that point, people, if they haven't already, will clock on to this is a scalable business that's just going to grow and grow,
Right.
and the potential is kind of unlimited. In my head, it gets to the stage where we've got 5, 6, 7 ecosystems. It's pretty much a full-time job to go through and enter all the different free competitions. You're entering 2 or 3 free holder raffles a week. You're
Yeah.
entering 2 or 3 free
Yeah.
holder poker tournaments a week.
Yeah.
Whatever the next one is, you're doing all those kind of
Yeah.
things, and you're hitting some of them because there's
Right.
a small group of you
You have
doing it.
to. You have to. And dude, it's funny you bring that up, is because I've been bringing this narrative up more and more, and I had it way before people were thinking about it. But for instance, in your category and especially gaming, we are not too far off of saying, man, it might make financial sense to pay somebody $15 an hour full time to utilize the game NFTs I own and the raffle NFT sites I own because it's going to pay out in the long run. Like, isn't that a bizarre thought?
Uh, and yeah, I mean, I think it is going that way, because and that's kind of where I see NFTs going, is utility focus where there's a real purpose. You'll get the occasional art ones that spring up. Damien Hirst will be able to sell out an NFT whenever he does one purely based on the art. There's
Yeah.
not going to be another Bored Ape collection that does what Bored Ape's done. It's done now.
Right.
Um, so I think people are going to be forced to innovate.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's good people are doing it now, and the market's down, and I think there are lots of people doing it that are working on great ideas where there are genuine use cases. And I think more and more of that. There's been so many like buzzwords, like we're launching a play to earn game, or there's going to be staking, and we're going to have our own coin. Oh, and it's just all these shit that you just gets included on the roadmap because it's like, okay, they're doing that, I like that, they're doing that, I like that. This project's done that successfully. What could they do with it? And
Right.
it's kind of the opposite approach. We're trying to, everything we've done, if we've got that utility of one of the 10, which is the staking one.
Right.
Uh, 25% of it is generating the HyHu token.
Right.
There are other benefits to do with the staking that are completely separate to the token, that are just completely different from anything else anyone else has done.
Right.
And the 5 utilities we haven't announced yet, just as much thought has gone into the first 5, which again, there's nothing like them.
Right.
No one then you can't get 150% of the value of your NFT.
No,
No one's giving you the opportunity for their artist of the collection to give you one of one pieces however you want them.
right.
It's everything we've tried to, and kind of the way we've managed the Discord, the way we're ending up doing them in, everything is a little bit different with how we're doing it, and I think it just kind of that's something that's important to us.
Yeah, man, and I think it makes sense. I think you have obviously thoroughly thought this through. One of the things that I want to bring up is people don't people talk about founding team, but there's so I like I told you I got my master's in tech and entrepreneurship, and well, I told you I got my master's, but I actually got my master's in technology and entrepreneurship. Isn't that kind of funny getting a degree about entrepreneurship? But it was fascinating because my main professors all owned massive venture capital firms in DC and New York, so I was learning from the best, right? And they all unanimously said it's not it's the makeup of the founding team. It's not how smart they are. It's not how, obviously there's the outliers of Bill Gates, Zuckerberg, all of these just, Elon. Uh, but it comes down to the founding team is their number one barometer, their excitement of their project and like how bullish they are on the future and being able to complete this, and then how they work with the other founding partners. So it was refreshing to hear that you have become really good friends with somebody that you've met 5 times in real life. Like that's saying something that you're still that close, because that's something hard to do, especially when you're building a business. Uh, and I don't think we talk enough about how important that is, because I think when people interpret founding team, it's always about past business success or how smart somebody is. But there is a lot of weight to be said about your passion and excitement for what you're doing, which literally I can hear it coming out of your voice. And we've been talking for over 2.5 hours at this point. It's almost 3 a.m. for you, but you're ready to go. And then, how you're synergizing with other people in your group. So it's just really cool to hear you say that. And I definitely had to interject and once again say, dude, I'm a broken record. Props to you, my man.
I think you're right. It's a well, thank you firstly. But yeah,
Absolutely.
you're right. It's a huge part. I think you can have the best idea since sliced bread if you've not got a team capable of delivering that, and if that's because they're infighting or they're not capable in the first place, or one person's got one idea and another person's not got another idea. Um, Adam and I are on the same page about virtually everything. We rarely disagree when we're working on anything. Which I mean, we get challenged in the team, and there are some of the community leads and mods that do challenge us, which is good, and we do want that. But it's to have someone that kind of thinks in the same way and that you do get on well with. It is also very much our passion. He despises is a strong word, but he really doesn't like the recruitment industry. It's a typically kind of slimy,
It's cutthroat,
do anything for
slimy.
the sale.
Yep.
Yeah, and also dealing with the NHS and doctors, it's a very long sales process as well. So
Oh, I
he,
can only imagine.
yeah, it's a lot of kind of red tape, and people are leaving one post, but they're not leaving for 6 months. And it's kind of long timelines and long horizons,
Right.
and it's just I think the excitement has worn off for him. Um, so he's looking for someone to take over full time. I've literally been working on this full time now, kind of for 6 or 7 months. I'm not really trading NFTs. Occasionally, I dabble, but and occasionally I'll make a coin trade, but not really much at the moment. I spent 100 hours in the last 10 days or so. I've had COVID, so it's actually kind of the timing's worked out nicely because I've not been able to leave the house. But we generated 10,000 of the artwork, and then I went through and selected 1,111, and I did it in a systematic way to kind of pick the right amount of each one for what we wanted, and it just my eyes. I was getting motion sickness looking at the screen by the end of it.
Right.
Um, but it's kind of I got to the end of doing that, and I was like, you know what? I actually like I'm quite happy having done that for the last 10 days.
Yeah.
It was an absolute slog, but I enjoyed it, and
Yeah.
like it's kind of I'm excited now for what the next stage is.
Yeah. No.
And it's there's a lot of excitement with us. We're kind of we know we're on the cusp of something um, really potentially massive,
Right.
and it's kind of now we're at the point where we've been working on it behind the scenes for 9 months. The website is nearly ready to go. We got kind of a version 0 literally today where we can kind of click through it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not got all the back end stuff sorted yet, but the front end's there.
Yeah.
And some of the back end stuff is done.
Yeah.
And we're kind of within a couple of weeks of launching the Genesis collection. The contract is gonna. This isn't public knowledge yet, and he he actually doesn't even know he's going to be doing it. But OX Quit owes Ape Gang a favor,
Yeah.
so he's going to be auditing the contract for us.
There you
Um,
go. Alpha alert. We got big people making sure this comes off with out a hitch. That's awesome, man.
yeah. So yeah, we're taking kind of the security and all of that very seriously.
Yeah.
But it's kind of feels like we've been working on it for so long, but we're now at the beginning.
Yes. Isn't that
Which
crazy feeling?
yeah, it's kind of like this is all gonna. We'll look back on this hopefully in a few years. It will all be kind of a blur and feel like it's taken no time. But there are times where Adam and I were up looking at the Discord first thing in the morning, and no one said anything since we said it last night. And it's like, oh God, when's the moment gonna be?
Well,
So
hey, everybody from Midlife Fam, you better get into this damn Discord as fast as possible because our boy Casey and his project needs some love, and I think it's gonna be amazing. But I hear what you're saying, man. Like so much work has gone into it, and dude, you are just at the beginning of an even longer road, you know? Like it's awesome though. But I'm so excited for you. Dude, can you believe we've been talking for almost 3 hours?
no, it's gone. It's flown by.
I told you in the beginning, and you probably like, God, man, this bearded ginger redhead guy is
Yeah.
crazy. I don't never talk for 3 hours about anything. Um, So what we'll do, and by the way, my time constraints have gone. It's way later than I thought it would be, hence why we're still here talking. And it's just been you've been amazing, man. I do want to be cognizant of the fact that it's almost 3 a.m. So what I'd love to do is, and I lied to you, I actually have a two-part question at the end that we always ask. But I kind of like I like to, throw it on. It's nothing crazy. It's a very simple question. But before I get there, I want to give you the floor. I think you've done an amazing pitch job. And by the way, I remember when we were talking first, you said you really want an opportunity to go into detail of how the project works. I think you've done that fantastically over the last 20 minutes. And we cut this entire stream up, and we'll be sending you a bunch of video clips that you'll be able to use to your liking on your channels in your Discord, however may you want. So you'll be able to use those cutouts of you explaining because I think you did a really good job. I think that the last thing I'd love to hear from you is what does the next, and I know you can't reveal all the information, but what does the next 6 months, 12 months look like for hybrid humans and the future? Although we just said it hasn't started yet, I'd still like to hear kind of your vision, your thought about what hybrid humans looks like in the future.
We truly want to be the biggest network of pay to play in Web3. So the idea is for every 6 months to launch a new ecosystem, spend and I mean the business is going to grow in. You lose me for a second there.
No, no, you didn't lose you.
I'm watching the stream. It just lagged. I think that was just that.
Oh, sorry about
Um,
that.
uh, Our ambition is to be the biggest network of pay to play. So we're going to be launching a new ecosystem every 6 months. So around Christmas time, our poker site will be launching, and we will be kind of advertising the next ecosystem one in advance. So kind of as soon as the HyHu raffle sites launches, the team are going to start development of the poker site. That's going to be a little bit more extensive than was required for the raffle site. They're expecting it to take kind of 3 months. And there's some licensing involved of poker software and all that kind of thing that we need to go through some legal requirements as well. But we'll have one collection so we're minting the collection in 4 separate drops.
Okay.
We haven't announced the total collection size, but it'll be closer to 5 than 10,000. The first
Mm-hmm.
drop is 1,111,
Mm-hmm.
and not to go into too much detail, but the main benefit, amongst others, of the first drop is that 20% of the mint revenue from the first drop and the subsequent second, third, and fourth drop will be exclusively used for an additional set of free raffles just for the holders of the Genesis collection.
Right.
So that will equate to, if you win the average amount, substantially more than triple the value of one Genesis NFT. Um,
Dude.
so we will have minted out
Amazing.
the total collection in 6 to 12, or by the end of this calendar year, we would have minted out
Right.
total collection. The HyHu raffle sites will be up and running. The poker site will be up and running by the end of the year. We'll be working on our next ecosystem, which will launch next summer. And then the first three are kind of what we've publicly committed to. Our plan is then to kind of continue to expand beyond that and continue to, as long as there are ecosystems where there's a demand, and it kind of doesn't really matter what the demand is, we'll adjust that up and down.
Right.
But we'll continue to launch ecosystems. If there's a demand for 500 ETH worth of raffles a week in a bull market, then we'll be able to host that.
Right.
So it's just kind of building that up, judging the market. Hopefully, will be a better market conditions around then, and it will be an exciting time.
Yeah, and I mean that's the brilliance of it right there too. And we're kind of touching on this earlier is you have the ability to scale, right? So as long as and if the NFT market's not bad, I mean, if the NFTs market's bad, I mean, let's say a year from now, you will have reserves built up at that point, and you always have the public to start monetizing. Because if you become the brand that you can be, and I think you will be, that's just a non-issue at that point. You know, crypto can be down, and you still can sustain your business.
Yeah, and I think when you look in kind of in real world businesses, loads of successful businesses have been launched in bear markets and down periods in the economy.
Hmm.
I think it's successful and it is possible to do it in crypto.
Right.
They're just, as we've said, you've got to be doing something different and something new with a genuine
Hmm.
use case.
Yeah.
And I think we are doing that. I think it would be optimal to launch in a bull market where kind of everything's flying, people have got money to throw around.
Hmm.
There's airdrops going on left, right, and
It
center.
would help a little bit, but hey, man, again, you want the ultimate prove out your business model. If you can do it now, that's a pretty good testament, man.
Yeah, and I think a big thing as well is one of the things that always tends to do well is kind of gambling and um, giving people the opportunity to win something big for not that much. Those sort of businesses generally do well in recessions as well, where you can kind of log on and for less than the price of gas, you've got the chance to win something that could potentially be life changing.
Yep.
Um, is an appealing proposition.
Yeah, I actually have I've got so many people I want to link you up now because we've had uh damn man, we've talked to over 100 founders at this point. So we're building up a pretty cool network. And like we talked about earlier, it's not, I don't pick my network based off hype or who's got the biggest name. I base it off of who I think is just a good human, you being one of them. So I think, man, you just, not only do you have opportunity to bring notoriety, like not even to mention, like you could really educate and bring awareness to Web3 through this vehicle as well. That's a whole nother thing that you can mess around with, right? But as far as as I think there's more meat to than just the, hey, I'll collaborate you with a project for giving, raffling NFTs. I think there can be some really good strategic relationships within the space. And, some gaming ones come to mind for me and other people that have brands. So I can't wait to start those conversations for you too. And I think the other thing that you said that is is absolutely, I was actually talking to one of the founders that would be on the show, and we kind of came to the conclusion there are some things that are recession proof, and gambling is one of them. There's a reason why Vegas is still around, even through every recession and down market
Yep.
we've seen, right? And this is a form of it, and it will gambling, alcohol, and entertainment are pretty much tried and true mechanisms to get through anything. And yeah, man, I mean, it's just a really cool idea. Any other final words about the project, or is that's where you're gonna end it for the future?
Um, that's I think where kind of that's a kind of an indefinite future. We have very much a road plan for the next 18 months with the first three ecosystems. But the exciting part of it is the NFT launching is exciting, but the exciting and rewarding part of this for us is in the pay-to-play ecosystems.
I
Making those a success will be our big focus, and I think we'll end up having a kind of it's going to be we're going to need loads of people. It's going to be great to get kind of be able to offer early members of our community, hopefully, full-time roles in Web3, where we're going to need a customer service team, we're going to need people buying projects, we're going to need people helping with the websites and running each of the ecosystems, we're going to need people full-time looking after the community. All those sort of things is going to be kind of very rewarding to be part of as well.
Yeah, man, and I
And I
mean
think
that's it. I mean, not only can you raise awareness about Web3, you can build a legit Web3 company that you will be hiring the head of Discord management, and you will be hiring the head of Web3 partnerships, right? The head of pre-sale whitelist spots guru. Shit, man, you can create new titles that don't even exist yet, and that's just a cool thought to think about too.
yeah, and as well the kind of the winning of the NFT side, it was something we kind of caption we came up win the NFT for less than the price of gas. We hosted some free to enter raffles. And the first one we gave away a World of Women Galaxy, and I think the floor was about 0.6 at the time.
Yeah,
And a 16-year-old guy from India won it. He came in the VC and he was like pissing himself. It was like the best day of his life, and it was just very rewarding to like when that goes and we're giving away like a 15th NFT.
yeah.
It's you're potentially changing people's lives, and it's going to be very kind of buzz around that we've had in the build up and the drawing and the post draw, even when people haven't won. People are seeing like the chat goes wild when someone's name comes up and everyone's tagging them. It's kind of the excitement level around the project as well is something that we think is big. Is people be thinking, oh god, when's the next draw? When's the next draw? When's this happening? It's something that people are going to be actively. It will be part of their day. They'll want to know when everything is going on.
Right. Dude, amazing conversation. Close to 3 hours. And I appreciate you staying up late. Although I don't feel too bad because I can literally feel the energy through your phone from London, which is pretty damn far away from San Diego, California. So I'm happy that you're jazzed. The energy you feel and the excitement you feel is the same I feel for what we're doing. So like it's really cool to be able to hang out with people and share just excitement and passion for life because you found something that you're just jazzed up about, right? But to close the whole thing out, there was some questions that I went through. I mean, you nailed it, man. You did such a great job explaining everything. You've answered all the questions. It's now my turn to ask my last question. It's a two-part question. First part of the question. Actually, we'll just make it two separate questions. I don't know why I've always said a two-part question because it really is two separate questions. First question is, do you have any questions for me? Because I just pounded you with questions for 3 hours, and if nothing comes to mind, totally cool.
Uh, I've very much enjoyed this conversation. It's been a different one, kind of nice not just to speak about the project and kind of speak about some bigger picture things and kind
Yeah,
of for me to realize as well kind of how I've got to this idea because it just when you take a step back and you kind of think about the journey you've been on and kind of where kind of how everything's happened to get to the stage where you're at, it's kind of a lot of moments where it's like a glass door moment where you make one decision and you're down a completely different path now
yep.
and you can't imagine having not made that decision.
Isn't that crazy?
So it's been enjoyable to kind of see all of that and yeah, I am extremely passionate about this. I'm not going to get. I mean, it's 3 o'clock. It's way later than I usually go to bed, but it's going to take me ages to fall asleep after this conversation now.
I'm
So
sorry. I'm sorry I did that to you, but I'm also not sorry because it was amazing.
yeah, thank you. I've very much enjoyed it, but
Yeah.
no real questions.
Yeah, and actually, you asked my second question. We always ask, out of all the AMAs and things you've done like this, how do you think it went? And you answered it that you've thoroughly enjoyed it. It was definitely different, and it reaffirms crazy stat for you. You have now are over the 100th founder we have had, and I don't think many businesses can prove their model out this way. 100% of our guests have said such a unique experience, thoroughly enjoyed it. So I think we're on to something. We're going to keep on trying, man.
Yeah, definitely. I think I'd love to come back at some stage in the future when we've done some of the things we said we're going to do. Adam will come on and we can I can meet Matty.
Oh, yeah.
And
We'll have a freaking blast, man. I appreciate it.
exactly.
And like I said in the beginning, when before we came on stream, the other thing we do different here is we're in it for the long run. We have a guest schedule filled out almost over a month in the shittiest time NFTs has seen in a long time, if ever. Um, and we're here to stay in long-term partnerships, and especially with people like you that are genuine, nice people, but have a business that we can chat in a year from now or 6 months from now or 3 months from now when you have some other stuff ready to talk about. So just thank you so much, man, from the bottom of my heart.
Thank you, and thank you for everyone that's kind of listened to us for the last 3 hours. I'm gonna go off screens when we jump off this.
Yes.
But if any of you who are here want to join the Discord, I'll give kind of everyone whitelist. So I'll go through that and
Oh,
do that in the morning.
you're so
So
nice. You heard that, fam. If you get into the Discord that's pasted in the chat now, say you're from MLC, and our boy will hook you up. And dude, you'll be happy to see there's already multiple people in there saying I'm from midlife. Thanks so much. Loving what just happened.
perfect. So I will go through those and do those. I'll be when you guys are all asleep. So I will. You'll wake up and you'll have the whitelist roles.
Oh
So
man.
I'll put a message in the Discord in the morning where you'll be able to find everything in there. And yeah, thank you. I really genuinely have really enjoyed it.
Oh, thank you so much. And with that being said, people, Midlife Crisis will be back next week. Maddie's still on vacation. We will not be streaming on Sunday. We will be back Tuesdays with the Trolls NFT that has an amazing sustainable idea too. With actually, we touched on recruiting earlier that Casey's business partner is in, but they have an interesting idea to automate the industry. and NFT is the first thing that they're working on. And then that's followed up by one of the most hyped projects that came from Hate Beast. They're called Mutant Shiba. They're still around. They ain't going anywhere. Some OGs from Hate started that project. We'll be talking to the founders, having a blast. We love you all. Mikey G and Midlife Crisis.